Okay, good afternoon. Are we up and running? From the technical side. Yeah. Okay, good afternoon. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Thai-Finnish Symposium on Green Cities and Industries, co-organized by Embassy of Finland, Thai Ministry of Industry, and the Asian Institute of Technology. My name is Kai Tuorila, and I'm the Counselor for Trade and Investment at the Embassy of Finland. I have the pleasure to invite His Excellency Mr. Jyri Järviaho, Ambassador of Finland in Thailand, to give welcome words, please.
Thank you very much, Kai, and welcome to all to today's seminar on green cities and sustainable industries issues. Mrs. Siripen Kiat Phuangpho, Deputy Director General Office of Industrial Economics, Minister of Industry, Professor Eden Wood, President, Asian Institute of Technology, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, my special thanks to our co-organizers of Royal Thai Ministry of Industry and Asian Institute of Technology. Without their support and help, today's symposium would not have been materialized. Since the signing of the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding on Circular Economy Issues between the Finnish Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment and the Royal Thai Ministry of Industry in September 21, we have been organizing a series of webinars on the issues of circular economy and sustainable industries. Today marks a culmination of these series with this hybrid event on green cities and sustainable industries. Ladies and gentlemen, there is much to say about how our societies face the challenges of climate change and loss of biodiversity. We cannot do this work alone, and we know we need global responses. Therefore, collaboration and innovation together, sharing information and best practices, utilizing the latest solutions and technologies is crucially important for all of us. In fact, Finland was one of the first countries in the world to streamline its efforts in circular economy by producing a circular economy strategy back in 2016. In Glasgow Climate Summit last fall, Finland committed to become carbon neutral by the year 2035. Not only the government, but also companies, cities, and various actors have set their targets for climate in Finland. For Thailand, the bio, circular, and green economy model sets the pathway towards the more sustainable development and climate goals in Thailand. These issues are embedded also in Thailand's APEC chairmanship of this year, 2022. Today we have an excellent opportunity to learn about both countries' efforts on circular economy and sustainable industries. I wish everyone a great symposium today. Thank you very much. Kapun kap.
Thank you very much. Next will be Kun Siripen Kietphuangphu, Deputy Director General of Office of Industrial Economics at the Ministry of Industry. Please.
Excellency, Mr. Jyri Järviaho, the Ambassador of Republic of Finland, Dr. Eden Wood, the President of the Asian Institute of Technology, or AIT, the experts from both Thai and Finnish sides, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Sawadee ka. On behalf of Ministry of Industry, it is my great pleasure and honor to deliver the welcome words on Symposium on Green City and Industry today. First of all, I would like to extend my appreciation to Embassy of Finland and AIT in organizing an excellent hybrid symposium, which is a part of activity under the MOU on circular economy between Thailand and Finland. Since the MOU has started on September last year, 5 webinar series on circular economy based on the MOU have been jointly organized successfully. Thus, the today's symposium will be the next important step in strengthening the cooperation and implementation on circular economy, particularly in achieving green and sustainable industry. In this regard, I would like to thank both Thai and Finnish experts from their dedication to share their experience, lesson learned and best practice in achieving the future green city and sustainable industry. It is well to note that the circular economy is one both important solution in dealing with climate change and Sustainable Development Goal or SDGs, particularly on inclusive and sustainable industrial development and promotion of other related sectors. At the present, Thailand has been adopt the Bio, Circular and Green Policy or BCG model to push forward to inclusive and sustainable industrial development goal, with creating environmental friendly ecosystem for the Thai industry sector. Similarly, Finland has set the like-minded target to reach the carbon neutrality by 2035. Apart from Finnish industry also focus on zero waste solutions that comply with circular economy. The topic today's symposium is very interesting and inspiring. Technically speaking, we can learn the experience of Finland roadmap to circular, which will be beneficial to Thailand in order to apply and formulated modern circular economy policy blueprint. Additionally, the experience, lesson learned and best practice concerning policy implementation as well as business strategy on green city and future sustainable industry will be shared by high experience Thai and Finnish experts, both from government and business sector. Finally, I believe that the symposium today will not only provide us a useful knowledge and idea, but also intensify the partnership between Thailand and Finland on the circular economy and sustainable industrial development during the COVID-19 pandemic. Last but not least, I wish this symposium a great success in all respects. Thank you for your attention. ขอบคุณมากค่ะ
Thank you very much. And after the welcome words, we have an opening remarks from Dr. Eden Woon, President of the Asian Institute of Technology. Please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. And I understand this is a hybrid event, so that for the friends tuning in from Finland, good morning. Thank you very much for coming. Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, and Senior Delegate from the Ministry of Industry, Kun Serapan, thank you very much for inviting AIT to be one of the sponsors for this very meaningful program. This program actually, I'm trying to recall, we talked about this program, the Ambassador and I, on 1 December the year 2020. During COVID years, sometimes time goes very fast, sometimes time goes very slow. But it was actually in December of 2020, and that was not long after you arrived on station. We had a discussion in your embassy, and this particular subject of co-hosting this seminar, and also your signature with the Thai government on the Memorandum of Understanding came up. And then at that time, we were both extremely enthusiastic that we'll work together on this subject. And if you remember, December 1 of 2020, was really at a time, believe it or not, if you believe the numbers, the number of cases in Thailand was 0 per day. Okay? And so we were very bullish that we could hold this seminar in the spring of 2021. Well, then the rest is history. The COVID came one wave after another, and so the April 29, 2021 scheduled date had to be pushed back. And I remember that we were also very optimistic. We pushed back 1 month, we pushed back another month, and then thinking that maybe this time we could hold it, but then it never came. So what we did was that I think that all parties, worked very smartly. We started this series of webinars. We said, okay, fine. So we could not have the big symposium. Let's do these webinars. And there were 5 webinars, from last year all the way through, I think the last one was about 6 weeks ago, something like that, and all very successful. They address very specific issues related to the general topic, and it brought in industry experts, it brought in government experts, and it brought in academic big experts. And that series, I think that the discussion is that we will continue that series. This is by no means then the end of the this type of commitment by AIT and by the Embassy of Finland and by the Thai government. So this is not the ending event. This is sort of a intermediate event. So for this event, we are looking at green cities and industries. And then there will be 2 important topics. There'll be 2 panels. One is the key success factor in achieving green cities and sustainable industries. That will be explained by the invited experts and discussed in the panel sessions, so 2 panel sessions. And actually, since the establishment of the Environment Engineering program at AIT in 1963, and that's really only 4 years after the birth of AIT in 1959, we are the very first program offering postgraduate study on public health engineering with emphasis on the provision of safe drinking water and waste management. I always like to joke that now you hear a lot about SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and I like to joke that AIT was doing SDG before people knew how to spell SDG, okay? And so we have had a long legacy of working in this area. Through our research for several decades in the region, it has been realized and widely recognized that the end-of-the-pipe approach could not offer a sustainable management for waste and wastewater treatment, but rather causing socioeconomic implications and minimal participation by stakeholders, neither industry, business, nor community. So AIT, in partnership with several regional organizations, such as the World Health Organization, UNEP, UNSCAP, etc., have applied and successfully tested the 3R concept for municipal waste management. One of the lessons learned from these regional applications is that key success factors is to systematically integrate socioeconomic considerations into the 3R concept that enable the circular economy. AIT has thus adopted the circular economy into our course curriculum for master's and PhD programs, one of which is the recently launched program in marine plastics abatement, and where we graduated over 100 master's students with marine plastics abatement specialization. And that was supported very generously by the Japanese government. And in that program, students came from all over the world, and they can learn and apply the concept in their field research. One of the MPA graduates, for example, came from Indonesia. In 2021, utilized the research findings for improvement of plastic waste management in the Medano city using circular economy principle. We also had a student from Brazil, for example. This has shown that a success in implementing circular economy principle would require a full understanding of marine ecosystems, technological advancement, plastic waste management, and business innovations. So therefore, not only, however, in our MPA program, but AIT also offers postgraduate study with multi and interdisciplinary fields such as urban innovation and sustainability, climate change, sustainable development. In fact, our 5 strategic focus areas are climate change is 1, food, energy, water is 2, smart communities is 3, infrastructure is 4, and technology, policy, society is 5. Those are our 5 focus areas, but of course supported by other fields like management, and we have a very robust and active artificial intelligence center, for example, to try to apply leading edge technology to all these traditional environmental oriented fields. And among AIT alumni, which now number over 25,000 around the world, several of them work as city mayor, high-ranking government officers, regional experts, senior consultants for NGOs and for companies. In fact, one of our alumni is Kai. So thank you very much for selecting AIT many, many years ago. And I hope that paved the way for your success after that point. And another alumni is Mr. Chaiwat, who is the president and group chief executive officer of Bangchak Corporation, who is one of our prominent alumni from our industrial engineering and management program. And he'll be a panelist in the second panel. So we look forward to that. So, therefore, through the lively discussions that are sure to follow, we will no doubt learn from one another by exchanging valuable viewpoints on how to achieve sustainability. So thank you all for joining us today in person, and I'm so glad to be at an in-person event, for a change. And thank those of you who are watching virtually also. So let's hope that we have a successful symposium today, and I wish everyone good health. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I can really say that the investment I made to study at AIT 30 years ago have paid up very beautifully for me. Thank you. We are looking forward for a very exciting afternoon here, and I have a great pleasure to introduce the moderator for next speakers and panel discussions. The correspondents from BBC News I used to listen already in mid-90s here in Thailand. Mr. Jonathan Head, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Kai, and thank you, Ambassador Yuri. Thank you for choosing the Foreign Correspondents Club. We do like to think of ourselves as the foremost arena for spirited debate in Thailand, and I can't think of a more important topic than this. I was actually quite surprised after being asked to moderate this event to look at Thailand's record and to realize that Thailand is in fact well ahead of most other countries in the region in thinking about the concept of a circular economy, that there is a kind of roadmap that the government has come up with. Many of Thailand's companies, the bigger companies, are very advanced now in thinking about sustainability and in various aspects of corporate social responsibility. So it seems very appropriate to me that this discussion should be happening here, and that Finland, which is of course leading in this concept, should be involved in this dialogue with Thailand. And I hope that what comes out of the discussions and the cooperation between these two countries may provide useful lessons and knowledge for other countries to follow. It's obviously critical that we address the issue of climate change and sustainability urgently. Climate change, of course, is immensely challenging, as we know, and involves these massive discussions between countries with all of their political priorities that makes it very, very difficult to advance the agenda. But on the circular economy, it seems to me there are far more gains to be got. And that's important, not just from a point of view of the environment, but also to give the general public a sense that there are things they can do, that it is worth making the effort, and that they can take part in this. And I would say that probably critical for any success in improving sustainability in all of our activities is getting public buy-in. It's challenging, but it is important, and I'm sure you all know that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the first two speakers who are starting this seminar, who are coming in to us from Finland, who have probably the best knowledge of the circular economy and the most experience. First, Kari Hörlevi, who is the project director for the circular economy for biodiversity at Sitra, which is a very innovative fund for innovation that was started way back in 1967. It shows how forward-thinking Finland was to try to fund new ideas about how we operate as in human society. And he's one of the world's leading experts in the circular economy. He'll be giving his address first, and then we'll be hearing from Elina Ojala, who's the environmental director at the city of Lahti in southern Finland, which it's got the title of Europe's Green Capital for 2021, and has an extremely ambitious climate neutrality target, reaching carbon neutral status. Hopefully, the aim is to get there by 2025. That must be ahead, I think, of any other city in the world. So real experience on the ground from Lahti, a city of around 100,000 people, with a great orchestra as well, actually, if you're into music. So I'll start first of all, if I could hear from you, Kari Hörlevi, and you give us your presentation, and then I shall ask Elina to give hers.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be virtually in Bangkok. I had a pleasure to visit your country 2019 before COVID, and also visited a lot of companies over there. So great to be back, even in these circumstances. I'll share my screen now so that you get a sense of the presentation. Hopefully you can see it at the moment. But anyway, circular economy indeed has been a very, very important topic for Finland and for Sitra. And I'll share some of the experiences from our side. And like was already mentioned, Sitra is a gift to Finland in 1967, and it is still the future house for Finland, kind of foresight organization, but also piloting and providing evidence of the most important topics for the country in the future. So in that sense, quite independent under the parliament, and we have the market capital of our fund is closer to 1 billion euro, and it's an evergreen fund in the sense that we use only the returns of the endowment capital for our activities. I think this was the most relevant question that we asked ourselves when we started the circular economy path in Sitra. It's of course very important for a small country to understand how to guarantee a fair future, even if we know that everything is changing. And of course, in the last 2 years, I think this is more true than ever. And from the circular economy point of view, I would say that this is the slide that has most focus in our work at the moment, and of course in the recent years, how to tackle these very big problems of biodiversity loss and climate crisis, and certainly depletion of natural resources. There is no mention of circular economy here, because we see circular economy as a tool to mitigate these challenges. And if you take some numbers behind these 3 topics, it is easy to understand how difficult situation we are at the moment globally. We know that more than 90% of the biodiversity loss is caused by resource extraction and processing. But we don't know exactly how circular economy is linked to that situation. We know at the moment quite clear that making products, of course, make a lot of climate emissions. And according to OECD, we also know that material use will be close to double by 2060. And this is, of course, an unsustainable situation in any country or region at the moment. So, as I mentioned, circular economy is a tool towards more equal and carbon neutral world. But certainly these changes are not happening by itself, and it has to be managed in regionally, locally, but also in a national level and certainly in an international level as well. But how to do these kind of changes? in a national level, I can tell about the Finnish experience so far. So we were the first country in the world to launch a national roadmap back in 2016. It was led by us at Citra, but very much in a collaborative process. And it was great to hear that Thailand has a roadmap as well. And certainly we see that as an important step in the path. The second big thing from our side has been to invest in all levels of education. And we have, together with our stakeholders here in Finland, provided materials from kindergarten level to universities to integrate circular economy in existing studies. So it's not a separate topic, but really in the math, science, arts and business areas, for example. And at the moment at Citra, we've been working very much with the vocational training and lifelong learning, because it is certainly not ending in school, this path. And thirdly, this is about business opportunity. This is circular economy. So very much providing tools for industries, from chemical industry to manufacturing industry. And in fact, this brings to all small and medium-sized companies in Finland. And there is also a list of Finnish most interesting companies that you can have a look. It's in English on our website. Very popular source of information. And finally, one additional point from Citra's work so far. So we did 2018 already the link between climate and circular economy. So certainly in Thailand or in Finland or in EU, it is important to look at the steel, plastic, cement and aluminum, how to make them more circular and maintain the value in the society, and at the same time reduce CO2 emissions. In fact, the next week we will launch a study where we will make the quantification and the connection between circular economy and biodiversity. And this has not been done anywhere in the world so far. So very exciting study that we see will provide a clearer picture of those connections. So I've been talking about the environmental perspectives and the economic side, but certainly one important thing is that this should be a just transition. And we know that if it's not a just transition, it is very hard to get bigger acceptance in the society. So we have to think about this circular economy journey also, so that nobody is left behind. I think one of the key questions are listed here when we started, and still when we are working with the circular economy topics is really to understand as the kind of end goal is changing. There's more and more information and more competence. So we have to reevaluate all the time our kind of targets and to know where we are really going and how to know when we are really achieving results. I mentioned the circular economy roadmap as an example, and this is the list that we see from our experience why strategies makes a difference. And it's certainly about creating shared mindset regionally, nationally or internationally, and offer a way to engage with various stakeholders and giving them ownership of the actions as well. Certainly it's about SDGs, like was mentioned earlier today already, and how to achieve different targets. So just you might not know, but we created also a guidebook how to make a national roadmap, but this could be applied in a regional level as well. So if you're interested, it is downloadable on our website as well. Then briefly about the Finnish current situation. So it has been an exciting road, and last year the government decided to make a plan until 2035. And what is interesting in this plan is the objectives here. A country with the rich of natural resources has set an aim to cap of its use of natural resources domestically, and also to double resource productivity and circular material use rate. So they are ambitious goals. Of course, it remains to be seen how that will be implemented, but certainly it is on the right track. I know that in Thailand, based on my visit, there is very interesting companies, and I just wanted to still make the connection with the industries from our point of view. And this is the kind of list of the business models that we see relevant from the Finnish side, and many times also internationally, I think they are relevant. Of course, from the Finnish side, renewability, replacing plastics is important from the kind of technology innovation point of view. But again, globally, in different countries, we know that plastics is a huge problem. So there is a kind of connection to markets quite relevant. Also, from the Finnish point of view, digital solutions are the name of the game at the moment, and how to offer products as a service, or how to make sharing platforms that increase the use of goods, etc., and sharing and reusing. So very, I would say, exciting times in that sense, and we have a lot of companies at the moment that are innovating with this kind of business models, and also in the international level. There is, I think, one of the challenges at the moment is the value chain approaches and how to track the use of materials, because at the end of the day, it's important to understand where the materials are coming, and how can you make the value chains even more efficient, and especially in these times when the value chains have been kind of having serious problems. So this is certainly an area that is in a lot of business kind of focus at the moment. Maybe as many times people ask that, okay, what are the examples? And it would be very easy to give an example of recycling and resource efficiency point of view, but I thought that I this time give a kind of example from a little bit different point of view. Mass Global has attracted a lot of VC funding, and it has a very global approach, and it is focusing on transportation area, where it's really important to, especially in the bigger cities, to offer service so that you don't have to buy a car, and you can still have the kind of possibilities to move around, and they have provided this kind of a Netflix type of service where you can pay a fee and you can still use those different transportation services, and in those countries and cities where it's very difficult to own a car, this should be a quite lucrative process. And we know that transportation emissions haven't gone down very much so far. And from the circular economy point of view, this is a case where you could actually increase the use rate of transport facilities and not so much provide privately owned cars. Very interesting. The jury is still out there. It is in a kind of a scaling phase, and it's interesting to see how that will play out. If you're interested in a little bit of more in detail what has happened in Finland, there's a recent article by Time magazine from December. They visited Finland and provided kind of outlook of the educational side and the business side and the innovations happening in Finland. So please have a look if that's of interest to you. And finally, we at Citra, together with our partners internationally, we have created the World Circular Economy Forum concept from 2017 onwards. It's been hosted in different parts of the world already so far. It's one of the key areas in debates in circular economy. And this year, at the end of the year, dates will be launched soon. it will be in Kigali, Rwanda, and focusing, of course, on global issues, but with the African lens. So hope to see you there as well as in the future forums as well. But that was my side, and thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kari. Stay with us just for a moment while we hear from Elina Oyala. And I don't know whether we've got any civic leaders or town leaders from Thailand listening in, but I'm looking forward to hearing from you, Elina, how you make the circular economy work in practice in a city like Lahti. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope you can see my slides now. I'll just put it in the, now it should work. Yeah. Yes, hello everybody. My name is Elina Oyala. I'm the environmental director in the city of Lahti. And we are, as mentioned already, we are a relatively small city with 120,000 inhabitants in the southeast of Finland, about 100 kilometers from Helsinki, the capital. And we have won the European Green Capital Award, and this is a competition that has been launched by the European Commission, and each year they select one city to be the European Green Capital. And we managed to get this award after our third attempt. And we are in a very, very interesting group of cities now, because all of the European green capitals form a network. And there are cities like Copenhagen in Denmark, or Stockholm in Sweden, or Oslo in Norway, that are the capitals of the country, but also very well-known environmental actors, and here this is a very, very nice recognition for us as a smaller city, and also we are the northernmost and the most eastern city to win this award. And this year the winning city is Grenoble in France, and next year it will be Tallinn in Estonia. I wanted to talk to you about our environmental path, how we managed to get here where we are now. So we are located by the lake that you can see behind me. It was very heavily polluted, and it was because of industry and communal wastewater that was led directly to the lake. And then in the 70s, 80s, a movement started in order to save the lake, and that became our environmental story. Because today, as you can see, it's a very nice place, and you can see the famous concert hall by the lake, and it's really an oasis to the citizens, and we can eat the fish and we can swim in the lake. So it was a big success to save this lake. And something else I wanted to point out from this timeline, in 1998, we had a waste management system in place that was based on source separation. And this was very early for Finland as a whole. So we were some sort of pioneers in that field, and since then that has become the common way of managing waste. And then when we think of our climate targets in 2019, we abandoned the use of coal in our district heat production, and that kind of crashed our CO2 emissions. And we were also able to set or to tighten up our climate goal, our target of becoming.
Elina, can I just interrupt for a moment?
Yes.
We're not seeing your PowerPoint presentation. We're just seeing the opening tile. I wonder if you perhaps could move from one tile to the other.
Oh, okay. I can see something else that you.
Now we can see the lake, which is very nice.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for letting me know. I hope you can see it.
We're seeing the opening tile, but we haven't seen, it hasn't moved
Yeah.
down to any of the other tiles in your presentation.
Oh, this is strange. 'Cause
Now
for
we can,
me-
yeah. That one moved.
Ah, okay. Maybe I just okay, so you can see it changing now.
That one changed, yes. If it doesn't work,
Yes.
we'd be happy just to see you.
Oh, okay, but it wouldn't be the same. Can you
right.
see the timeline now?
We can only see the opening tile at the moment.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'll try to share my. Yeah, very sorry to hear that. I'll try to share the whole screen and then up. Now maybe.
Ah, that's something. Yes, now we can see the different tiles.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So this was to show you where we are located in Finland, and then I was talking about this timeline. So as you can see, we started our environmental work very early, and we've been working on it for decades. And I was already here in 2019, where we abandoned coal in district heating production, and that was the reason why we were able to set a target for carbon neutrality already to the year 2025. There is still a lot to do, but we are very wishful that our attempts lead us to this target. And the European Green Capital Year, as I mentioned, it was a big thing for us, and it still is. And now we tend to continue with the legacy. And just recently, we were chosen to the European Commission initiative of 100 carbon neutral and smart cities. So this is very nice continuation to our environmental work. So the biggest targets that we had when thinking of environmental things is a target for 2025 in carbon neutrality and the waste-free 2050. We are part of this national city network where we get this waste-free target. And the carbon neutrality to us, it means cutting down CO2 emissions by 80% from the level of 1990, and then binding the rest to carbon sinks, forests, and then compensating the rest. And environmental education, or the role of education, was mentioned already. And we have two full-time environmental educations working for the city, and they work in very close collaboration with schools and preschools and kindergartens and also different age groups. And this is a very effective way of getting the message through, as the children also teach their parents. And this is a picture of a typical Finnish kitchen, where you can see the source-based separation. So you have a lot of different boxes where you separate the waste. And this is also something that the kids learn at school, and then they go home and they say, why don't we separate our waste? So we get this impact from there. I wanted to show you also a picture of complexity when it comes to material streams. And here is a picture of our waste management center. Here is Salpakierto in the middle, and there are a lot of arrows going that describe the different material streams. And of course, it's very important to first of all catch the streams, but also to make it to the best possible use. And I wanted to highlight this part because here you can see the production of our local biogas. So we take the bio waste and also the sewage sludge, and they are turned into biogas, and we have a gas station next to this where you can gas your car, or it's also used in production sites in the factories in the area. And within the Green Capital year, we now have a lot of electric buses in our local public transport, which is very, very nice. And also this year we have a full season of electric city bikes, which are there for everyone to use. And here is to say where we are at our CO2 emissions. So from the 1990 levels, as I mentioned, we've come down a lot, and I must say that even though abandoning coal, it was a big investment, but it was also the kind of easier way of cutting emissions, and now the low-hanging fruit has been picked. So there are a lot of smaller things that we need to do, and our emissions now come mostly from energy production and transport. And I must say that transport is the trickiest part to get the emission reductions. And with the abandoning of coal, we now use biomass and energy waste in our district heating production. And we are aware that this is not the final solution, but this is a better option than burning coal. And we have a very effective power plant which takes on the emissions that the emissions are quite low. But with this transformation, we also managed to improve our the utilization rate of municipal waste. So only 1% goes to landfill at this time. And we don't have a traditional landfill anymore because we only get this 1% there. But I must say that the recycling rate is still lacking behind the EU target. So there is a lot to do in order to make the source-based separation even more efficient than what it is today. And that is to say that we are not using the material the best possible way. So we could improve in separating the plastic with of the bio-waste and so on. And here is how our target looks like. So here you can see the production prediction on the emissions, and traffic is difficult, and you can see that it hasn't changed that much over the past years. Some points I want to raise what comes to the European Green Capital legacy. So we had this special year. We had a lot of events. We had a lot of visibility, and we have launched 3 of these kind of legacy projects that we want to, the specific themes where we want to continue. And one of them is a development center for carbon neutral construction industry. And here the city works as a platform for different kind of pilots, but also it gathers the research and the local businesses and also the national business in order to get impact on, because it's the impact of the building sector is really big in climate issues, and also there is a very good knowledge in our area. And then another one is green electrification of mobility cluster, and here the basic idea is the same, that Lahti can work as a pilot area, but it's really, this is more working with the core businesses, and we have a big company called Kempower who is doing these chargers, and it's growing rapidly, and so we have very good expertise on that. And then nature's health benefits. This is a new theme for us. We have launched a 10-year program together with our health sector, and this is the first time when the health of the nature and people are studied at the same time. So we talk about planetary health, and this is a very, very big thing, and it also binds these kind of major problems that we have: climate change, biodiversity loss, and the growing health problems that we have. And then just briefly something how the European Green Capital was seen in Lahti and also outside Lahti. So we had a really big media reach, 4.5 billion is the estimation through these 2,200 articles that were published globally. And I must say that I was really surprised that we were very visible globally, and maybe in the end not even that much nationally, but the global media reach was really big. And then we did 3 times a poll for the citizens, and every time we got the same result, that the citizens found this project significant or very significant. And this is a very important feedback for us. We are doing something that the citizens are happy with as well. And of course, it has impact on the how city is seen. And I must say that Lahti has not had that good reputation before, but having chosen this environmental aspect as our leading thing has really paid off, at least to my opinion, because we have been able to also polish our reputation with this ambitious work that we have been doing. And this is all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elina. If anybody's got any questions for either Kari or Elina from having heard that presentation, there is time for it. And if you do, just put your hand up, because I'll get Tam to bring you a microphone. I actually have a question that could have came up in my mind for either of you. I think particularly Kari, when we're talking about the circular economy, which is it possible to advance a circular economy while remaining committed to the kind of growth levels that most countries believe are essential? I mean, we live here in Asia in a region which has done very well out of spectacular economic growth of rates of 5%, 6%, 7% a year. The target for most countries is at least 2 to 3%, and yet that means basically having a massive increase in economic activity, and many people would say that's unsustainable. I mean, do we need to be thinking, is it possible to have a circular economy and sustain what we consider normal economic growth, or do we have to tell citizens now that they also need to think about much lower growth or no growth at all?
Thank you, Jonathan. That is the question that I think many organizations and of course countries are asking themselves, and unfortunately there is not like a clear answer of what is the kind of future scenarios in this respect, but certainly I can say that think about the planetary boundaries thinking, and that the current linear model, including its growth, has led us to the situation that we are really wasteful in the societies. And there are studies showing that globally, for example, world is only 8.6% circular at the moment. So in that sense, we are in a very difficult situation if the kind of traditional growth trajectories are continuing. Of course, at the same time, it's clear that we need to have innovations and growth in order to innovate and provide clean technologies and finance those transitions. So this is quite complex picture, and there is not like a silver bullet here how to do it. It is certainly also clear that growth has managed to raise people out of poverty in many countries as well. So I think in many ways it is clear that we have to cap the emissions. We have to also look at ways how we are using raw materials, critical raw materials, or any raw materials, and certainly we have to see that the pollution and waste situation globally will decrease radically. So I think this is like, in a way, I would like to see that circular economy and innovations to a certain extent provide kind of new avenues for us. But at the same time, I feel also that we have a lot of technologies that we could already implement if there is political will and of course finance to do it. But sorry, this was a little bit like political answer because it is a very difficult but very important question.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting a one-word answer, but I guess it's very complicated. Alina, I've got a question from one of our members at the Foreign Correspondents Club, Julian Spindler, who's talking about the big jump in basically putting waste to generating energy. And is this really sustainable? I mean, you've done it in Lahti and you're a relatively small city by Asian standards, but how difficult was it to start putting so much of your waste into the energy cycle? I mean, how much technology is involved? How expensive is the investment? And is it something that much larger cities like Bangkok, where we are, could think about doing?
Yes, thank you for the question. And yes, of course, well, I think Lahti in a way is the size of the city is quite nice in order for us to be relatively flexible. So like, of course, we need political decisions in making big investments, and especially if we want to make innovative investments or procurement. So this is, of course, a big debate each time. But I think in this case, there were so many pros that it made sense to make this kind of move. But it's not that evident even by us that we could have these kind of things. And the burning of energy waste, it really heats feelings in Finland, but I think elsewhere as well. And as I mentioned, it can't be the end solution, because of course when we burn the waste, it's removed from the circle. So we lose the material as well. So it's not the best option in the end. But I think for many cases that might be the better solution anyway at this point. But of course, other solutions should be researched as well in order to find the best solution for the city. And yeah, unfortunately, I can't give you any numbers from the top of my head, but they are big investments, especially in the city budget. So it needs to be planned very well.
Thank you very much, Alina. Obviously, no magic solutions there. Look, I've got time for just one more question. This is from Supon Kutatep to Kari about extending the life expectancy of products. But, big manufacturers, of course, have built into their whole approach the idea of obsolescence, of needing to buy new models. That's the entire basis of our consumer society. So, they introduce these every year. I mean, have you, from your experience, how difficult has it been to get big companies to change that mindset when they're in competition with other companies whose mindset will not change?
Excellent question again, and it is first of all difficult, but in my experience, when there is like competitors that are doing profitable business with new business models and show traction, it is a different situation in that context. So, and I'm a firm believer that these kind of market disruptions happen, and we know that they have happened already in last decades in many industries. And of course, we know, for example, Nokia's story, which is now again in a good path. But disruptions happen, and I would say that it is true that the life cycle of a mobile phone or smartphone is I guess closer to 2 years only. But there is also, at least in the Nordics and Finland, kind of tendency also that people don't want to buy very expensive phones every 2 years. It is rather the content that is important in those smartphones, and that they are more updatable and kind of provide also good business with the kind of smart solutions that they provide. So this is also kind of question that in what kind of business those companies are. Are they kind of providing the end value, or is it more like the hardware that they are providing? But of course, there are many also other factors that are playing in.
Thank you very much, Kari. A change of mindset needed. I think we'll all have to give up going to visit the Apple shop. At this stage, can I just invite my Thai speakers to come up to the desk here so that we can expand the conversation. Dr. Chaya, Dr. Naveen, Dr. Suracha, and Dr. Wichan. If you'd like to take your seats here, you'll find your names in front of this. Stay with us, Kari and Elina, so we can broaden this conversation out. Let me just introduce the guests that we have just coming up to the speaker's desk here. On the far right, we have Dr. Suracha Udomsok, who is the Chief Innovation Officer and Executive Vice President for New Business at CM Cement Group's chemicals public company, who has been trying to drive new businesses through different collaborations in this subsidiary of CM Cement Group. And he's been with CM Cement Group since 1989. He's told me he's basically a lifer at the company. It's, of course, one of Thailand's most important and largest conglomerates. Next to him is Dr. Chaya Chandawasu, who is Vice President of Sustainability at PTT Global Chemicals PLC. That's one of the largest integrated refining and chemical businesses in Asia. He's also a member of the board of directors in several subsidiary companies, and he's leading the development and execution of the sustainability initiatives across the company, as a very familiar speaker on the issue of corporate environmental responsibility. Next, coming to our left, is Dr. Wichan Simchaya, is the president of the Thai Environment Institute, a non-government organization set up to promote and offer ideas about sustainable and environmentally sustainable policies, particularly to the government. He's also the Secretary General of the Thai Business Council for Sustainable Development, President of the Thai Sustainable Consumption and Production Network, and formerly worked in the Department of the Environment and had a number of senior positions, including in the Department of Pollution Control. And then closest to me is Dr. Naveed Anwar, who's a structural engineer originally from Pakistan, but he's lived in Thailand so long, I'm not sure if he'd still consider himself from Pakistan, and is the Vice President for Knowledge Transfer at AIT, at the Asian Institute for Technology, has 35 years of experience in interacting with the civil engineering and structural engineering industry. He's responsible for creating and managing an ecosystem to get more value out of the knowledge that's created at AIT, a very important institution here in Thailand. It's been around for a long time, and to make that useful in the broader sense. He's also overseen the interaction between the AIT and Thai industry through the Entrepreneurship Center, and teaches various courses up to PhD level on structural and earthquake engineering. So listen, I'm very pleased that we've got two representatives of Thailand's industry from two of the most significant companies in Thailand. And you will have been listening to that presentation from Kari and from Elina about what's happening in Finland. I think in Thailand, because of the size of the companies and their success, an awful lot rests on corporate shoulders when it comes to coming up with ideas to advance the circular economy. Perhaps, I mean, Dr. Suracha, can I start with you as you're on the far right? And you can tell me what you've been doing in SCG's chemicals company, what kind of ideas you've come up with, because ultimately all the activities that CM Cement Group's involved in do have very big impacts on the environment.
Yes. So for us, we actually embark on the circular economy in full steam probably about 4 years back. We starting with the organizing a public conference, Sustainability Day on the circular economy. And for us, we think of the circular economy as one of the mega trend. And I think in the future it will separate between the company that being the leader in that field and company that the laggard. And we think that we want to position SCG as a group to be the leader in this new future. And for us, I mean, when we talk about circular economy, everyone will just start thinking about plastic issue. But for us as a group, we not only look at the plastic, we also look at the construction industry. Actually, for the cement construction business, they form a kind of a society of circular economy in construction, which I think is very nice, and it shows that even we are in Thailand, but we could do some activity that is actually quite unique compared to other countries. And for the waste plastic issue, I think this issue is really complex. We just getting...
But very popular with the public.
We're just getting scratched. I think the first thing we're trying to do is to separate between emotional effects and facts. And we try to make sure that the message come across that plastic is essential for modern life. It's just how we can manage the waste plastic better as a society. And we are, as a corporate, we're part of the society, so we have to contribute and take the leadership. And for us, for example, my responsibility as a new business, we set up circular economy business as a business unit, and we want to drive this activity to make it a sustainable business. So this is kind of what we are doing in a nutshell.
I mean, you mentioned construction and cement, and we know that has a huge impact. Can I ask how you make the production of cement more sustainable and more fitting into the notion of a circular economy?
I think we're talking two parts about cement construction. First, we make sure that all the construction site has built in the circular economy concept, because there's a lot of waste in the construction. And also how to generate less waste is also important. So for example, we promote the use of digital tools for, I mean, in the industry they call BIM, kind of building information management, that you can cut down the waste. I think that's one part of the construction activity that we want to promote. The other part is, you could say it's a circular, but cement construction, we one of the industry that in the spotlight for the CO2 contribution. But there's no other material that can replace cement in terms of, I mean, cost and performance. And to make cement by chemistry, you need to change calcium carbonate to calcium oxide. So that part you definitely always generate CO2. But the other part is on the energy side, which I think in the past 2 years we have done a very good project in terms of partnership across the value chain in a different industry. if you guys can remember that Thailand always have the problem with the PM 2.5.
Yes, it's the air pollution. Yeah.
Yeah, and then one of the contribution is from the burning in the farm. I mean agricultural. So we work
and quite a lot of dust from construction sites too. That's a problem in cities.
But we try to work on the sugarcane farmer to make sure that we have a project called Zero Burn. So we work with the farmer, we work with the agricultural machine and try to take the leftover and turn it into the fuel for the cement plant, so that you get the circular and you reduce the carbon footprint. So this is kind of an example.
Could I ask Dr. Surachai, you mentioned that getting the circular economy concept into construction. I mean, Bangkok is a city of construction sites. It's addicted to construction. If I were to walk around the city and walk into one of those sites, would I see them operating quite differently now than, for example, they were doing, let's say, 10 years ago? Has it really happened in practice?
I think you have to say this, when you say construction, there's all kind of construction. There could be a big construction site like condominium or public work. I think that part is probably the momentum is there in terms of getting better in terms of the circular economy concept. But I think you may have some small scale construction that's more grassroots. So that part is more about on the education and giving the right tool for the people in the smaller construction. So I think I'm born in Bangkok. I live in Bangkok for my whole life. I think the construction standard is getting better and better. For big construction site with the big company, I think that our standard is second to none. I travel the world. I see London. I see every place. Certain construction project, we are as good as them in terms of management. There's nothing to be, ashamed of.
Good. Thank you very much. Dr. Chai, if I can go to you. I mean, your company's very big in production of polymers, aromatics, crucial parts of our consumer society and the chemical industry, but you're also at the front line of trying to find better ways of doing it. Give me an idea of the sort of things that PTT Global Chemicals has been doing.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think similar to SCG, right? I think as a private sector, I think it's our responsible to help support in terms of make the product with responsible for environment. And I think every one of us could help. For example, Dr. Surachai mentioned about waste management is a complex issue, right? But I think not just part of government role to resolve or solve the issue, but the private sector or even the public can help to evaluate the problems. And for waste management, for GC, right, we try to create awareness to people to understand the issue and be part of the engagement in the process, right? I think can help from the household, we can help to separate the waste. We can recycle more, right? And in the private sector can help to build a supply chain in terms of taking the waste and recycle into the more value-added products. It could be one of the solutions, but again, it's not just a role of one company. I think everyone could help. Secondly, I think we can have more choices for the public or consumer. For example, in Thailand, fortunately, the government has promoted the use of renewable fuel, right? For example, we have a gasohol, we have a biofuel, for example, the biodiesel. It helped with the PM 2.5 issue in Bangkok and in the country. And GC, as part of the supply chain, we try to produce very good quality biofuel, right? From both ethanol and also the biodiesel. At least people have a choice when you get to fill their tank with the biofuel, right? And for waste issue, we use a lot of single use. I think plastic, even now, is coming from fossil. Is still a lot of provide convenience to people on food packaging to protect even the COVID times, right? GC also help provide solution. We have bioplastic that people can choose for single-use application, either plastic bag or even for the food packaging. So this could be, part of the solution to, help for the waste issue, right? And we believe circular economy concept is no longer a choice. I think it's a necessity for everyone, not just from the private sector, but the public has to help. And for us, it's part of the business, meaning we try to integrate the circular economy concept into the product that we can offer to customer. And by doing this, we will promote using of more and more renewable content in the products. And secondly, we have to make sure in the process of production, we have committed to have minimize the impact to environment. And the most important thing, I believe, part of the product offering, we can offer something that greener and more, eco to consumer, for them to have a choice to use.
Could you give any examples of products that your company makes which are now being produced that's more consistent with the idea of a circular economy? Because I think the terms you're using are quite general. We can't really visualize what you're doing.
I think one of the good example, I think we supply most of the biofuel in Thailand right now, right? For example, biodiesel that you are using in the car. And secondly, you might not know that GC is one of the biggest producer of bioplastic in the world right now. But mostly we produce in the US and also in Europe. But now we're starting production in Thailand for some bioplastic. And this one will provide accessible to the consumer in the region, that they can choose to use bioplastic, that they have no choice in the past to use only the fossil-based plastic. I think that's one of the examples that we made practical to the public, that they can have a choice on many product applications.
Is the use of biodiesel that helpful when, I know you talked about controlling farmers burning, but you have to grow crops which produce huge amounts of material that farmers tend to burn just to create that biodiesel. Some people would argue that by making biodiesel, you're creating more burning.
Right. I think it's not just the production part to produce biofuel. I think we have to be responsible from the as a whole supply chain, right? For example, we're using the sugarcane in Thailand, and to make sure that we work with the farmer and also the partner to sourcing the sustainable part of the feedstock to produce the biofuel, and to make sure that on the whole life cycle we be able to manage in terms of the impact to environment, not just on the production part that we doing right now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chai. I'm going to move over to Dr. Wee Chan from the Thai Environment Institute. I know, Dr. Suchan, you would have been watching the presentations given by Kari and Alina. They're setting the bar very high for Thailand, but in your experience of formulating ideas and talking to government, how much has the notion of a circular economy actually been internalized and taken on, particularly by bureaucrats, because they ultimately have to carry out policy?
Okay, thank you very much, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for sharing your experience on the application of circular economy in the city and in industry activity. First of all, I would like to share what Thailand have done so far on circular economy. You may hear our Prime Minister joined the COP26 in Glasgow, Scotland. Our target on the carbon neutrality is in the 2050, and we will go to net zero greenhouse gas emission in 2069. But our short-term target is the national determined contribution in 2030. We are going to increase from 20 to 40% by support by international agency. And the content that the Prime Minister mentioned in the meeting, they're going to use BCG, bio-circular green economy, as a tool to bring the country to the target of carbon neutrality or net zero emission. BCG is the national agenda already approved by the cabinet last year. I myself also serve as the chairman of circular economy. When we are going to implement circular economy in our subcommittee, we also think about how we can communicate to the people in the country as a whole. What is the circular economy? We select the pilot area that we are going to implement circular economy. The first one is the plastic. Since Thailand already announced that plastic waste management is the national agenda because we are in the top 10 list of the country contribute to the marine plastic debris. And the second one is food waste, food loss, because the problem on the waste management in our country, organic waste contribute more than 60% of the waste composition in the country. And the last one is the construction material that consume a lot of natural resources. We set the target, and our plan is tied to reduce the natural consumption at least 1 in 4 that we used in the past. And at the same time, we can reduce greenhouse gas emission, we can reduce plastic waste pollution as well, and then we can create like a new job, especially we call green job opportunity for the people. This is our plan. Action circular economy similar to Finland, just develop the roadmap. We also developed the action plan to implement circular economy already approved by the cabinet. Not just only recently, but the next national economic and social development plan. They also mentioned about the circular economy. The country are going to have a circular economy and a low carbon society as a tool for the country in the next 5-year plan. That's how important of circular economy in the country. You mentioned about how we know we have a circular economy. In our country, we just launched a product because Circular March last Friday worked with the pioneer product with the 30 company, SCG also one company that get the Circular March last Friday, and with the 376 product already approved for the pioneer circular product. But the country also have the level of the green product or environmental friendly product. We have the least. Green public procurement also really important when we talk about the circular, how circular can apply. If we can like give the certification for the product, and the industry can move from the routine to the circular economy activity or something like that. That the point how country going to move to the circular economy. City going to play very important role, especially in our country. When we talk about plastic waste, Thailand produce 2 million ton plastic waste per year, but we can recycle only 25%, very few compared to developed country. I'm not sure how Finland can recycle the plastic. Just why we are facing with the plastic pollution in the sea, marine plastic debris. This is also the problem. not just only the plastic, but we also have problem with the garbage. Garbage is the management. I think when we talk about with the developed country, they already solved the problem. But in our country, we still have some problem. Half of them can manage properly, but half of them still open burning. We are also facing with the garbage side. That's also the problem. Circular economy going to apply to solve the problem on the waste management, food waste I mentioned earlier, and the plastic waste. The system is also really important. How we can develop the system waste from the company can be a secondary resource from other company as well. Platform development also really important. And from plastic waste, we also going to review our regulation. Our regulation right now not allow plastic from food container to use recycled plastic, but we are on the process of the change our regulation, especially compared to European community that already allow plastic recycle for food container for the 25% of plastic recycle or something like that. That will be drive the circular economy in the country at the same time. This is just example. We look for the, if we do something, we can get more benefit, co-benefit. I think it's very important for us, especially for the greenhouse gas reduction, pollution reduction at the same time. That is just for your example for calculation how we can apply circular economy in our country right now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wichan. I mean, it's good to hear how much thinking there is going on. Obviously, for Thailand, there are very different challenges than there are for Finland or for a city like Lahti. Dr. Naveen, let's come over to you. AIT has been coming up with ideas on how to make production more sustainable for a very, very long time. You're in academia. Obviously, Dr. Wichan is dealing with government and bureaucrats, though he's now in a non-government sector. How effective is the intersection? How effective is the connection between the ideas that you come up with and you discuss with your students and what actually happens at policy making?
Right. Thank you so much. First of all, let me add a few adjectives to our discussion on the green city, because I think there's also a lot of discussion on sustainable cities and livable cities and smart cities and so many other terms that we are using to define our future cities. And I think circular economy sort of undercuts all of those objectives. So once we have this, then it will not only give us green cities, but also many other forms of future cities that we are now wanting to build or wanting to convert our cities to. So one of the things that I will pick up from this the presentation before was, I think, number second on the talk about education, and I think that's one of the key things that has a great impact on whatever we are trying to do at this point. And I would like to divide this into three parts, this education part. One is the awareness, which I think is now really to a very large extent has already been achieved. So people know a lot about the importance of circularity, of saving the environment and recycling and all of that thing. So that's on the public awareness, and that's all great. The second one is the education that we provide at the early stages to the children. And as I was mentioning during our lunch, that my children, when they're growing up, they had a lot of knowledge about how to do this right. And as they grow up, they didn't really follow it through in the later stages. But what really is I would like to talk about is the formal education, which is in fact one of the reasons that we are in this situation, and that is the solution to take us out also. If I look back at my own education as a civil engineer 40 years ago, I was not taught about all of these things that we are talking about today, and the things that I design, buildings, bridges, and things, I did not have the knowledge or the ability or the awareness or the training to build in the circularity or the sustainability aspects into those designs and development at that time. And that is where I think the curriculum of the universities and the research being done at the universities have to move very fast to that, because we are going to need a lot of capacity for all the people that are going to do everything that the industry and the government is trying to do very rapidly. We are starting things in like 4 or 5 years, but how about the people who will do that? They have been trained, many of them had been trained on the old style. So we are going to need, first of all, quickly to have curriculum and programs that address these at the education level, at the formal education level, training of the professionals, engineers, architects, planners, manufacturers, and the industrial engineers, and so on. And secondly, we also may have to do the retraining and reskilling of the people who are already on the job, and because they also have to be retrained and reskilled to work on this particular thinking, and also the technologies and the techniques and skills behind that. So to me, universities' role is quite important at this point, because there's a paradigm shift. So which means that we have got to bring our whole academics to support that, and at the same time rapidly create professional programs or training programs or reskilling programs or events like this to educate our professionals who are already on the job, so that they can also adapt and transform the work the way that they are working on. And lastly, going back to your question of how the industry and the academia sort of collaboration works, I think this is something that has been lacking in Asia. It has been very prevalent in the West for a long time. It's picking up here. We are seeing more collaboration between the universities and the academia. But I have to say that a lot of the time, industry tries to find a quick solution. So they will go and buy a technology because it's much faster and safer to do that than to work with the university and spend the 10 years or 5 years of research with a risk factor that it may or may not come up with a solution. So I think that mindset is still developing on how to trust the academic institutions to do the research that they need for there, because it's easy to, tempting to buy or bring the technology from outside and adapt it, rather than to develop it inherently, intrinsically within the universities here. So, but we are seeing a lot of change, and AIT has been successful in some ways. I think Professor Thammarat will join later. His research has been one of the one that has been taken over by SCG, working together with them and funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So it's a such collaboration. They work well.
I mean, I was going to say, if I think about Thailand, and it's very interesting as an example of a country which is at a very particular stage of development. This is no longer a poor country. It is no longer just a country making sort of low-cost manufacturing. That's moved off elsewhere, and everyone knows Thailand. And there'll be other countries in the same boat, is trying to find the next leg up and relying a lot on technological advance. If you think about medical fields, they're trying to move up from just having hospital services to actual medical technology. Do you think, from what you know of your field here and the kind of expertise there is, that Thailand has the potential to benefit from the new types of jobs and skills and technologies that will be necessary for a circular economy? Does Thailand have an advantage in this region?
Right. So I think you're absolutely right. So even though like you mentioned, I'm not from Thailand, but I've been long enough here and attached to the universities and institutions here to see that absolutely the policy framework from the government and the support is definitely there, far better than many countries in the region. So the government is very committed. There are several organizations that have been set up, NIA and DEPA and so many others, which are working towards providing that platform for the young people to work on that. And it's been a lot of success also. But I still feel that right at the early education level, the spirit of innovation still needs to be further strengthened for the young people from Thailand, from here, to be competitive in countries like Singapore or Vietnam or some other places.
The focus on technology and not haircuts.
Yeah, but I think, but absolutely the momentum is there and the infrastructure is there. I think it's just a matter of time, a little bit more, yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Naveen. I'd like to go back to our guests in Finland, having heard actually quite a different perspective from Thailand. Obviously, they're at different stages. But Elina, I mean, you've probably advanced the notion of the circular economy further than any other, as far as anywhere, probably on our planet. How easy was it to take the residents of Lahti with you on this journey? How much resistance did you face? And also, how much resistance from industry? I know the very polluting industries that are responsible for the problems in your lake are probably long since gone, but still, you know, industry is ultimately about profit. It's about, you know, delivering dividends to shareholders, and it can be quite difficult to get them to embrace a challenging concept like the circular economy.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I must say that, of course, it's a continuous process. And as I mentioned, we have this big target ahead of us what comes to being waste-free and the total shift to circular economy. So there is still something to do. But for us, it has been very long-term educative process, and I agree with the previous speakers that it's really important to put efforts on the education, both like in every age group, and we also have this local university which is really good at these themes. And I work with different environmental themes. I work with climate issues, with biodiversity, and there, at least to me, it seems and looks like that circular economy is a kind of it's the sector where you can find more easily the economical advantages. So in that sense, when you compare, for example, to biodiversity work, it's not so easy to find these kind of business models or companies that are interested in that. So in that sense, I think anyone with a good sense of business or also reflection to the world, like where we are heading towards, this is something that is a necessity, at least in the future. But also, if you make these changes now, then you are a step or a few steps ahead of the others. So it's really important to see the possibilities, also for the city to work together with the companies in order to get these things moving, because the pressure is already there, but it will get bigger in time, because we really need to push the green transition and to make this work. And we don't have all the we don't have unlimited natural resources, so that's why it's really important to do this. And with the citizens, it's yes, so it's also that the education needs to go on, because people also tend to forget, or the habits may kind of get back to the old ones. So we need to continuously continue with sharing information and getting the citizens engaged in different kind of events and so on. So I would say that it's a continuous process.
Do you have businesses in Lahti that say to you, "This, why are we focusing so much on this? This is too much trouble. You know, we need to focus on, you know, being more competitive, more profitable." Do you have opposition from some of the industries actually based in Lahti?
Well, yeah. So of course we have companies that are not exactly working on circular economy yet. But then we, for example, have this global packaging plastic packaging company called Vipak, which was our partner for the European Green Capital Year, and they actually adopted the same carbon neutrality target for 2025 but their target is to get to net zero with emissions. So it's even tighter than what we have, and it's really remarkable for a company that is making plastic packaging. So these kind of examples are really important for us in order to also pass on the message to the other companies that maybe you could do something similar. But yeah, it's a continuous process, and of course we need to also justify our doings and the aims that we have to our citizens and also the decision makers and the business. But I must say that it's really nice to see that within the European Green Capital Year, even our local chamber of commerce and local businesses have acknowledged that this environmental work has gained profit for the companies, and we also get companies who want to establish their headquarters in Lahti because we have this carbon neutral district heating, and these kind of things that they get sort of some sort of profit for being in Lahti and in this particular environment. So yeah, these kind of things we work with.
Well, it's obviously good for the city of Lahti anyway, definitely been put on the map. Kari, I was going to ask how much, when you're trying to push the idea of a circular economy, how much you need to rely on governments and in particular on laws and regulations to change behavior, or should we be relying on just changing public attitudes and on the market, on companies to respond to public attitudes? What's the balance here in terms of changing behavior?
It is, I think we of course need both. It is very important that there is regulation that shows long-term direction, and in Finland it's of course particularly the European Union level that is most important, because it at the same time gives regulational guidance but also creates markets, and there is kind of expectancy where to invest and how to innovate. So in that respect, I would say that it is very important. But at the same time, regulation comes usually a little behind compared to what companies are doing and innovating. And in that sense, in order to speed development, it is important that the change starts from the headquarters of the companies, because many times in these kind of systemic challenges, it is very difficult to rely on individual citizens' kind of needs and aspects in many ways. When we are talking about energy transition or critical raw materials and many things that are embedded in the products, it is important that the companies take the lead in this kind of situation. But I have to say that it is also vice versa. Companies are listening to the consumers and citizens and what is expected. And we see that already here in Northern Europe, that you are out of the business if you are not complying with the kind of needs of the consumers. And in many ways, this is something that is seen also in the regulational side with the EU taxonomy, where also the funding is connected in the future to more sustainability practices as well. So it's going from the kind of compliance side to core business actions.
Thank you very much, Kari. Well, that goes back to both of my representatives from the corporate sector here. I'm curious as to how much support you have from your top management for what you do. I mean, obviously you have support. They've set up what you're doing, but at the same time, your companies are both on the stock exchange. They also have the same pressures to deliver, profits, share price increases, dividends. How much do you feel you represent the core philosophy of your companies, or how much do you feel you're sort of at the moment still a niche concern of your top management? Perhaps start with you, Dr. Surecha.
I think for our group business, I think it's very clear that the whole company support, and we do a lot of communication internally. And for the top management, it's very clear that if we do it right, we could be the next leader in the next decade, because we grab the opportunity faster than the other. We know that people still need cement. We know that people still need plastic.
So you want to be ahead of the game in terms of...
But we want to be ahead of the
yeah.
game. We know that people we want low carbon cement. People we want to have more sustainable plastic. So if we can capture our position, leading position first, we should be successful. So I think in terms of corporate support from top management is very clear, and actually as a lot of we spend a lot of discussion on this topic, much more than the normal routine business, because we think that is the future. And I think one simple thinking is like this: we are in plastic industry, all raw material more or less import from somewhere else. If we can recycle plastic, we can use waste plastic as a raw material. It means that you are more on the level playing field, because now you have raw material that is kind of renewable in a sense in Thailand, and also for end use customer in the value chain that buy our plastic to make packaging or whatever, they also get the competitive advantage, because they will become a low carbon producer of packaging or whatever, which in demand in the many countries. So
when you look at things for sale in Thailand, the amount of packaging is extraordinary. Do you ever feel embarrassed? You're a major producer of packaging, and the country seems addicted to it. Or do you see a way in which you can cut it down? I would think I can't imagine you getting down to Finland's level.
I think
sometimes you find things wrapped 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key concern is packaging is a very broad definition. What we're talking about, maybe shopping, single-use bag in the fresh market, those kind of things, which serve certain purpose, because if you have to say that if you have a fresh market and everyone cannot have the plastic to wrap things or to do things on the fresh vegetable, and how they're going to carry things from. But
even for a manufactured product or one that's pre-packaged, is the move to non-polymer packaging the answer, like paper? Yeah. Are we getting that wrong? That might be more energy intensive.
I think for us, we circular economy for our plastic, we kind of put it into 4 pillars. We say that first, reduce pillar. Certain application or certain thing you need plastic, because it serves many purposes. For example, lower carbon footprint and lightweight. So we want to develop plastic that for the same end use, you use less material because it's stronger or it's tougher. So that's one direction. And we develop technology for that. We have a technology that we trademark as a SMEs and selling to application. The other thing that most consumers may not realize is making more recyclable. A lot of packaging food snack that you buy in the supermarket or those things, and you look at as a simple film packaging, actually contain multi-layer material, which is very difficult to recycle. So we develop solution that you can simplify the design and use less different material. And the other pillar that we think that is very important for all these things is recycle. So we think that how we can have more mechanical recycle, how can we have more we call advanced recycle. Mechanical recycle, the technology is not that strange, but it's how the cost of getting good plastic to do mechanical recycle to melt it again. That's the part that's quite inefficient because we don't have the same system as Europe or developed countries. So if you want to really find good plastic and collect in a mass quantity and convert it, it's not cheap. Yeah. And then the other thing we call is advanced recycle because as Dr. Vishan mentioned that food contact packaging is important and it's difficult to do the simple recycle. Maybe you want to break it down to the starting material again and start polymerization, so we call advanced recycle. So these are kind of 3 pillars that we keep pushing and see if we can make an impact or not.
Should we be so focused on packaging? I mean, that's what consumers see and they get worried about because it gets thrown away. Or have we got this, our priorities are wrong, maybe?
I think we cannot run around the we cannot stay away from packaging because packaging, if you count as a whole consumption, is probably 30%. But the packaging on the thing that we see and annoying, maybe obvious thing is like the shopping bag, those kind of simple things. Actually, the consumption is not that big. It's more like how we incentivize people to do more reuse type bag, because those things we develop project with certain partnership and we kind of, if you collect that plastic, it's very easy for us to make it the bag again. But how you incentivize? So we do a lot of project with the we call it PPP that try to get people in the value chain and say that, for example, if you go to 7-Eleven and you carry your used shopping bag, we're very happy to have that because it's very easy to make it to it back again. Yeah. So how to make it's not about technology, it's more about how to make the system cost make sense.
Dr. Chayo, I'd be interested in your perspective from PTT Global Chemicals, and I'm not just the support of your company, but also, do companies like yours welcome government regulation, or do you want to be left to come up with these? Is essentially you're being driven by the market, by opportunities, or do you think there's a role for government regulation as well?
I think regulation is quite important, right? I give you an example.
Create a level playing field where everyone's bound by the same rules.
Exactly. Yeah. And like Dr. Vichan mentioned, I think not just on the management issue, right? For example, waste management. I think in Thailand we can tackle the issue by working together. But again, for example, by recycle plastic, we have technology in the country to produce food contact recycled material, like we're doing at GC, right? But the regulation is not that supportive, meaning it's not allowed to use recycled material in food contact application like packaging. So if regulation can catch up a bit, meaning by promoting the circular economy concept, right, is an opportunity to create a new economy for the country. But somehow it have to be driven by certain regulation and law, right? I think it's not the risk, but if we have a proper governance in terms of make sure the safety is part of the production or on using the products, but we have a better control in terms of, okay, we can verify in terms of, the process, how we collect the waste, how we, have a better process for making the products. But if we can make a certain qualified product, regulation should allow, the public to be able to choose the different material. For example, if we recycle the PET water bottles, right? We should be able to recycle and bring it back as a bottle, not just use it as a garbage bag, for example. I think that's regulation part that they can support the industry to move forward.
I raised this point earlier about this visibility of packaging, and obviously the public's perception is important because ultimately public involvement matters. But we're focusing on packaging, but when we're actually looking at a circular economy, surely the bigger issues are in the way we manufacture all our products and what actually happens at the manufacturing stage. Isn't that where resources need to be managed much better. If you change how you make something, you can probably massively reduce the use, the unsustainable use of resources. When in your thinking, in your company, I mean, you get driven to packaging because you produce plastics and the public knows about them. The public doesn't know in any other product that you produce or anyone else how it was made, and that's the area. Isn't that the one that's most important?
I certainly agree, right? We're not just focus on the product side or packaging, but from the production process, right? Let's say from regulation, I think industry like to use more renewable energy for our process, right? But as you may know, either some sort of renewable, either solar or it's not competitive in terms of the fossil energy today, right? If a government have some certain policy incentive for the industry to use clean energy, we can buy or even purchase the energy a bit more competitive, right? It will promote industry to use renewable, and not just on the energy that consumed in the process. On the feedstock, as I mentioned, right now, if you use bio-based feedstock from agricultural, it's going to be very costly, right? To make packaging, I think it's not going to be competitive from the fossil base. So right now we choose to make more value-added products, right? We use bioplastic for the toy, for some other application, for medical purposes, but not on the plastic bag, for example, because it's not affordable. But if in the future we can lower the cost of the feedstock from bio-based, it create more demand in the market, right? And part of regulation that can support in terms of how we're going to make a bit more competitive upstream, right? For example, agriculture sector.
We haven't even touched on agriculture, which of course is a huge area in Thailand.
Exactly.
We probably need someone who's more specialist in that. Look, I've got one more question I'd like to get in before we finish. Oh, sorry. Let's take one from the floor if we can. Please do, yes. I'll actually get Tam to bring you down a microphone, and then everybody can hear it. Just one moment, just in case our guests in Finland need to hear it too.
Well, I know that we talk a lot about it costs more, or can you afford it? But let's not forget that the money you spent on producing a environmentally more friendly product or using a process is not thrown away, is given to the person or the company which is developing that process, and employment for people who are engaged in the business of creating environmental friendly processes for you. So, the money you spent is not being thrown away, is actually helping the economy in another sense, because it provides many business opportunities and employment opportunities for many people. I mean, the whole concept of ESG, I mean, this applies to companies that have nothing to do with the environment. And this means it creates a whole huge set of industry or people who are working on that. So I think that we need to, when you say things, if you give the impression that if you try to be more BCG, circular economy, it costs money, okay? It sounds like it's always negative, okay? But that's not true, because the money you're spending is actually helping another part of the economy, which is growing to work. I mean, I think Lati, she can probably talk about this, that her city probably seeing a lot of other employment that has sprung up because some companies have to spend more to
perhaps we could ask,
better.
Elena, is that true? Have you seen a lot of new jobs created by your focus on the circular economy?
Yeah, I think in Finland the discussion is that, well, circular economy is quite a mainstream thing already. So I think it has required a lot of time in order to adapt the idea, but it's in the thinking and in the talking of companies. And of course there are different level operators. Some are very engaged in it, and some are less. But it is kind of already the way forward. So to me, it actually doesn't sound like a question of cost. I think it's a lot more costly if nothing happens, because then we have this huge debt to our biodiversity and climate. So I think the ones who make these decisions at latest now, they are the ones who are better off in the end. So I really think that it's inevitable that we will need to make this shift.
Yeah. Well, my point is more macro.
Yeah.
Not just the company has to spend more to be a better citizen, but that the money that you're spending is actually benefiting some other segments of the industry or the society that is benefiting from this whole move forward.
So with the lesson is that we should definitely look at this as a net positive in so many ways. Look, we've kind of run out of time for this discussion, so I am going to wrap up if that's okay. Sorry, do you want to ask one question, Mark? I think we can squeeze one in, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Is it mic on? That one's on. Okay, cheers. Thank you so much for participating in the panel. It's really very important to have your presence here. So following up on the challenging question of going green and trading growth, and then government regulation, do you see the possibility for government subsidies or help in that regard, and then in relation to the job creation part, possible collaboration with the government or support for tax subsidies to go green with some of your ideas, and also create jobs, sort of like in a BOI model, where the government is giving tax subsidies and BOI type support to build the economy. If we want to go green and be able for companies like PTTGC and SCG to go green and help generate, well, for the betterment of all, do you see possibilities or collaboration with the government, or are you having dialogue? And maybe there's some best practices from Finland that might be transported.
I don't know who that's to, maybe you could answer, Dr. Chow, yes.
Yes, I agree, right, with Dr. Woon too. I think we look at it as an opportunity, but by going to drive a new economy, for example, government have a BCG policy, right? If you look at the holistic view, it could be a very big opportunity for the country, but it's not like a piece by piece, meaning either private sector try to drive it. I think we have to work closely with government in terms of how we're going to create a mechanism to provide incentive, not just from one company or two company, but the whole value chain, right? From the feedstock to whatever the demand driven in the country, or even if we can export those products in the region or all over the world. So it's a demand push, meaning we live in free market. So if we can create the demands, I think Thailand going to be a bit competitive, because we are very we have a strength in agricultural sector already. For the bio-based, we are quite competitive, but somehow how to move things around and also create a new supply chain. I think that's not just the industry, it just have to work closely with the government. But maybe Dr. Vichan can support on this.
Okay, thank you very much. I think under BCG tech in public procurement, we have the environmental in terms of the education. In Thailand right now, we have a curriculum on the circular economy for the first year student, but only serve for elective course. We are going to ask the government for the compulsory courses. The curriculum already developed and implement many universities right now. I myself also serve as Secretary General of Thailand Business Council for Sustainable Development. To company also a member of TBSD, Thailand Business Council for Sustainable Development. And for plastic, private sector, government sector, and civil society also develop the project tied to manage plastic. Both of them already mentioned. We cannot refill plastic, but how we can manage plastic after usage, I think it's very important circular economy is the idea that brought to use as not just only recycle. We have to think just early stage on the how to design separate the garbage. But when the city collect system only one garbage tank or something like that, but we have to look and hear from
Coming
can
soon.
solve that
Yeah.
problem. That's the problem is really important for BMA as well.
Thank you very much. And I don't want to intrude too much into the much needed coffee break for our long suffering speakers. Carla Heravi and Alina Oyala from the beautiful city of Lati, which is lovely to see behind you. Dr. Surachar, Dr. Chaya, Dr. Wichan, and Dr. Naveen, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You good? I'm going to change these over now.
Yes, thank you, sir. And bathroom break and continue after 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon. Okay, better to start the second panel already. May I invite the guests to come back to sit here and the panelists join to the table. I have a pleasure to introduce the moderator of the next panel discussion, Dr. Thammarat Kottapet from the Asian Institute of Technology. He's also a professor at the Environmental Engineering and Management and director of the Marine Plastic Abatement Master Degree Program. So, Dr. Thammarat, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kai. So, you are also AT alumni, that knowing AT very well. So, with that, I'd like to say about that a very good afternoon to all of you online and in the room as well, that we have a very, very special session. Of course, I'm not the very professional correspondent like Mr. Jonathan Head, but I'm the professor, so somehow my talk, my questions to the audience or to the panelists may not be that so interesting as the correspondents, the way that he talk. So anyway, I'd like to introduce firstly the program here, that we will have the panel in this session talking about the future sustainable industries. That's also very important. We have been talking, listening from the panelists in the first session that from the large scale industry like GC, like SCG, and then we may have heard about that, how the government respond to that and how the civic society should respond to as well. So I think the main purpose in this session, we would like to focus on how to achieve the sustainability and be more successful. Of course, the lesson learned from Finland, one of the very best country that use the circular economy in this future sustainable industry. So that we would like to learn from the Finland or Finnish industry, that how they take up this kind of approach, and also how they can transfer this kind of best practices to our country. So I'd like to introduce our panelists today here to this session number 2, that we have 5 panelists. Unfortunately, from Indorama, it is not possible for them to come to this discussion in this panelist, but we still have a very prominent panelists from the 5 panelists that starting from Dr. Mona Arno. She has experience in circular economy processes and technologies and interest in developing circular and sustainable business model and value chain. So she has wide experience in the valorization of different waste material and end-of-life products such as municipal sludge and end-of-life vehicles. And lately she has been involved in several projects, including the management and evaluation of the plastic waste prevention. She is also involved in water management and its digitalization, and active member of the European Technology Platform, Water Europe, and the co-lead the Water Nexus Working Group. So I think that it is a very important part that I just introduced like this. May be very boring. Then I would give the floor to the panelists to speak for himself or herself, that she can introduce herself, himself, and then introduce organization. But I try to limit only 2 to 3 minutes. That should not talk too long, and then we will have the other speaker enough time to speak for the organization as well. So the second speaker, that's from the Bangchak corporate companies, that Khun Kloita Nathalang. She is the Executive Vice President, Corporate Branding, Communication and Sustainability Activation of the Bangchak Corporation. So before joining Bangchak, she has been working with many other international companies like Shell and Tetra Pak and many others. Then she has been now working as the carbon markets of Thailand Carbon Neutral Network under the Thailand Greenhouse Gas Organization as well. So that would be very important to learn from her as well. The third is Mr. Stephen Batoro Mues. If I pronounce your last name correctly, I don't know, but I tried my best. So Stephen is the head of the public affairs for Asia Pacific and Neste, and leads all public policy advocacy effort of the company, engagement with the government, public sectors and organizations. So Stephen has an experience in the public affairs professionals and over 20 years international, regional and local experience managing issues, stakeholder and delivering communication in public affairs strategies. So actually, Stephen is originally from Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, your country is not in a good shape now, but hopefully in the near future, with your commitment from this circular economy, you can build up Sri Lanka again. Then he has a master in communication from NTU, Nanyang Technological University in Singapore, and get the BA in mass communication broadcasting from Winona State University, Minnesota, USA. Then the fourth panelist here is that Mr. Frederick Vilgotson. I'm sorry again for this not properly pronounced. He is a vice president in Power and Energy Asia Pacific for the WOWET since 2018. And before that, he was the director of the Process Design Fiber Processing Business Unit in 2013. He received the master degree in chemical engineering from University of Lund, Sweden, and then with the master programs in Aalto University and also IMD from Fast Forward 2016. So this would be another things that we can learn from the Swedish instead of the Finnish, but working with in the Finnish company, but staying in Thailand for 4 years, I guess. Then last but not the least, Dr. Kitipan Theparaksanakorn, that from the Ministry of Industry. He has been working with industry for many years. He has been working with the ministry and also serving in several committee in the Ministry of the Energy, in several organizations, including that the green technologies. So he's now the high professional levels engineers at the Ministry of Industry at the Department of Industrial Works. So you have heard that I introduced largely the brief background of her or himself in the personal information, but maybe I would invite each of you, starting from the Dr. Mona, that if you can speak and if you may have a few slides, not too long, then that it could be nice that we can learn from you, that from your organization, from your experience, how should we achieve these sustainable industries. Please, Dr. Mona.
Thank you. I'll try to share my screen here, just a moment. And then here. So are you seeing the screen now? Let me put it in slideshow. So is this okay now?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, good. Okay, so thanks for the invite, and also it's a special honor as not representing the industry per se, but supporting the way to sustainability. So the title here is VTT and Finland's Sustainable Industry, and I will go on to the next slide. A couple of words about my organization. Indeed, I work as a principal scientist here, and VTT stands for the Technical Research Center Finland. Ltd, we are a company, a non-profit company, and one of the leading research organizations in Europe. With a little bit over 2,000 people, we cover with our expertise the most technological areas that has a relevance in today's society. Of the 2,000, some a third have a doctorate or licentiate degree, and although we are owned by the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment, 45% of the net turnover comes from abroad, and so our goal is to be an international player, and I think we have been succeeded quite well there. So our role is to promote the utilization of research and technology for businesses and society, and here in our strategy, sustainability and circularity plays an extremely big role. So if you going back to Finland, I'll come back to Finland. So we're quite proud that if you look at it was some years ago, it was last year, I think, there were 6 Finnish companies who were named in the Global 100 of the most sustainable companies in the world. That's quite an performance, considering that we are representing 0.1% of the world's population and 3% of the GDP. So that is not in relation to the sustainability performance. We have also are proud of having a very clean environment. In 2016 we were the cleanest country in the world, and also we have the cleanest air in Europe, somewhere up in Lapland. There is a point close to the border to Sweden. Then VTT for zero waste. We do technological innovations. We're looking at circular economy. That's a new paradigm. It's been ramped up, rolled out throughout the world, and that means innovations, and that's where we step in together with partners, companies. We develop new processes, and here's just a selection. There are either waste processing solutions or solutions that enable more circular loops in the society and in businesses. I myself, I'm working a lot with plastic waste, and we have textile waste, bio-based fuel, renewable fuel from plastic waste. These are, and also substituting fossil and critical materials with more sustainable solutions. These are all what we are. This is all what we are working with. For that, we have quite good resource facilities. We're going up. We aim to do applied research which can be readily taken up by the society. And this is an example we're doing one of our pilot centers: fuels from waste, recycled textile fibers, chemicals from cellulose, and so forth. So that's shortly about us, and there is a picture from our pilot center.
Thank you very much for your brief.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for your brief presentation. That's very nice to learn of your visions about this kind of bio-waste, bio-processings that I think it is fit very well with our country BCG models. So from the Finnish ladies, so I would like to invite Thai ladies from Bangjak Corporate to brief a bit of the Bangjak activities and experience in this sustainable industry, please.
Swadika. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, ka. May I have the slides, please? And Kun Chaiwat, my group CEO, he apologizes for not being able to be here, and I'm representing Bangjak for this afternoon. Next slide, please. Just to give a little bit background about who Bangjak is. This is where we are today, Bangjak area. 40 years ago, that was the area where we started our business as an oil refinery. We took over from a Taiwanese refinery, and to strengthen the country's energy stability. And when we started off, it was just a refinery, and now in our almost 40 years, we have diversified, and we have grown from just a refinery into 5 businesses group and 1 initiative and innovation center. Next slide, please. So this picture sums up what we do today. The first one being the refinery and trading. We are 120,000 barrel per day refinery, which is the smallest in Thailand, but it's the fact that we are the only one in the city, in rather close to the heart of Bangkok. And we are now trying to adjust further in terms of trying to accommodate what we call unconverted oil, meaning that, trying to move away from fossil-based fuel as much as possible and putting more of the greener product into the pipeline. We also have a trading business based in Singapore, and I think we are, please stay on,อยู่หน้านั้นก่อนค่ะอย่าเพิ่งไป Okay. We also have a trading company in Singapore, and it's Thailand's biggest independent trader in Singapore now. The second group is the marketing business group. So you may see the Bangjak logo in the service stations. We have 1,200 something service station nationwide. We also have like the non-oil marketing, like Internin coffee brand, which is an eco brand. We pride ourselves very much positioning ourselves as an eco brand, and I think you have to visit Internin shops to see why we call ourselves an eco brand. We commit to be most sustainable coffee brand in Thailand. For the Green Power Business Group, it's undertaken under the company called BCPG. So it's renewable energy based. Solar, hydro, wind, and we have business in Thailand, in the Philippines, in Japan, in Laos, in Taiwan. Purely, I think it's the only company in Thailand that's 100% of the electron produced is green electron. BCPG is now also engaged in what we call digital energy, peer-to-peer energy trading with blockchain. We were the pioneer in Thailand 3 years ago. The fourth group being the bio-based. That's the starting with the bio-based fuel, biopower, gas-to-haul ethane, and now we are ethanol, sorry, and now we are moving further into adding more value to that with the synthetic biology. This is under a company called BBGI. The fifth group is natural resources. We have a company in investment in Norway, in upstream exploration production through a company called Okia. We are the major shareholder. And we did invest in lithium mining in Americas, but now we sold all the shares, but still have the right to offtake the lithium battery, the lithium that will come out of the production. Sorry. And we have a center that I call the Bangchak Initiative and Innovation Center, and that's where all the innovation happens. And we have a small startup that is an internal startup for the electrical motorcycle platform, rental platform called Winoni. You may see them around Bangkok, the white and green electric motorbike. So that's where we're heading in terms of business, trying to diversify, trying to balance our portfolio. And now we set a target to be carbon neutral by 2030 and to be net zero by 2050. So that's how we fare ourselves. And I believe that we are one of the leaders in the BCG economy in Thailand. And we are fully committed to that. And I think that just sums up what we do now as a start. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Kun Kroita. That BIIC, the Bangchak Innovation and Incubation Center, part of that, it is in AIT campus that we also work with the Bangchak officers and also our researcher joining hand to do the research on the algae research on that. So from Bangchak and then from Thailand, we would like to go back to Finland again. That Stephen, so can you introduce and make some presentation of your organization, please?
Yes, thank you very much. And I'm just going to try and see if I can share my screen. And
yes,
I hope it's coming up.
Yes, it's on.
It's on, great. Okay, so I'll just go very quickly into full screen mode. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to take part in this event. Well, while I'm certainly talking about a Finnish company, I'm actually based here in Singapore, so fairly close to Thailand. And you know, I think that just to give you a little bit, I thought I'd give you a little bit of background around Neste for some of you who don't know who we are and what we do. So everything that we do at Neste actually stems from this purpose, and that purpose is to create a healthier planet for our children. And I know there were a few questions that you shared earlier, and you'll see how this all fits in very well into what we do. Now, Neste has been through a tremendous transformation and innovation journey. So in 1948, we were actually founded as a company to secure Finland's oil supply. But since then, we've sort of transformed ourselves to become the world's #1 producer of renewable diesel and sustainable aviation fuel from waste and residue. And for our sustainability efforts, we continue to be included as a company and recognized for our sustainability by a range of external parties. Now, what's important about what we do, and I'll touch on this again when we get into the questions, is that we are actually helping our customers reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. And in 2020, we helped our customers reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 10 million tons, and we have a goal by 2030 to help our customers reduce their emissions by 20 million tons. And as we continue to innovate and look at new technologies, a large portion goes into, or 70% of our renewable or R&D budget is invested in researching future raw materials and technologies and working with partners like VTT and others. Now, we offer solutions in 3 main markets in terms of decarbonizing transport, but also in the renewable polymers and chemicals side. So for road transportation, we have a product called Neste My Renewable Diesel that can help reduce our emissions by up to 90%. We are the world's largest producer of sustainable aviation fuel. And over the life cycle, our sustainable aviation fuel can help you reduce your carbon emissions as well. And our latest business is around renewable polymers and chemicals, where, as we all know, in this part of the world, plastics and plastic waste is a significant challenge. So we are looking at how we can help reduce this plastic waste by using recycled plastic as well. And the beauty of what we do is that our renewable raw materials come from waste and residue. So we use about 10 different types of waste and residue, oils and fats and vegetable oils. And in 2020, waste and residues accounted for about 92% of all the raw materials we used to produce our products. And we, of course, continue to expand our portfolio and look at new technologies and continue to innovate as well. And to do this, we continue to scale up faster and bolder. So we are looking at new markets for road transportation, broadening what we do, developing new technologies and a capacity for chemical recycling of plastic waste. And we're also looking to strengthen our renewable raw material platform globally by sourcing from different parts of the world, and I'll touch on that later as well. And all of this requires innovation. It requires change. It requires constant transformation. And this is where we're looking at lignocellulosic fuels, chemicals and materials, looking at other new feedstocks like algae and municipal solid waste. And in the future, looking at green hydrogen and power-to-X technologies as well. So Neste continues to be on a transformation journey, a journey of innovation. And I look forward to discussing this further as we move along. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. That's very nice, interesting. That I think it's many of your business activities is very much relevant or partner or competitive to the Bangja or our petrochemical business here in Thailand as well. So I think in the future, perhaps we can partnering with you, in especially on the R&D and many others, that how we can solve the waste problem issues in Thailand and then convert to that biofuels in aviation or road transportations. So next, I'd like to invite Frederick from Valmet to introduce organization and your activities in this circular economy, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thanavat. Thank you to the organizers for a very interesting event and allowing me to present Valmet and our latest actions on the topic of sustainability. Next slide, please. So our mission is to convert renewable resources into sustainable results, and that statement actually guides everything that we do in Valmet. We are a technology and process supplier to the energy, pulp, and paper industry, and we create and develop solutions and processes for our customers to convert renewable and recyclable raw materials like waste, agrofuels, also wood and recycled paper into sustainable products like biogas, biofuels, biochemicals, different type of pulps, which can be used either for making paper or for making textiles like viscose fiber, and also different types of papers, including tissue, packaging material, and printing and writing papers. In addition to being a technology and process supplier, we are also targeting to be a life cycle partner to our customers, providing extended services and agreements to the customers throughout the entire life cycle of our products, and combining that with very advanced automation, including valves, control systems, and also different type of analyzers and industrial internet applications to give our customers support on a 24/7 basis from remote locations, which has proven very important now also during COVID times when traveling has been quite restricted. So if you would take the next slide, please. In Valmet, as said, we are focusing a lot on sustainability, and we're extremely proud to be included in several different sustainability indexes. To mention one, we have been now 8 consecutive years in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. And we are continuing to focus on that, and our latest edition in the field of sustainability is our climate program that we launched in 2021, where we are taking a holistic view of the entire value chain of our operations, focusing on everything from supply chain, our own operations, and the user phase of our products and equipment. We have actually mapped our CO2 emissions throughout our value chain, and it approximately 4% of our CO2 emissions comes from our supply chain, 1% from our own operations, and around 95% during the user phase of our products and technologies. With that, we have put up quite ambitious targets in both supply chain and own operations, but we're also focusing a lot on the user phase where we see the greatest gain. So I would say that the pulp and paper industry has been in the forefront of sustainability during the past decades. We have seen reductions in fresh water consumption of up to 90%. Same goes with effluents, qualities. And in addition to that, a lot of focus has been on energy optimization, both on electricity and in the field of steam and power savings. So those savings are not only from a sustainability point of view, but we also see a great gain to our customers in terms of operating cost reductions. So by being sustainable, our customers are also earning money by reducing their operating costs, reducing steam consumption, power consumption, getting more out, higher yield from their raw materials, producing more from less, basically. So we see sustainability as a key cornerstone in everything that we do, and we also see that it brings an additional value to our customers. So with that, I would like to see now what we can achieve during today's discussion, and looking forward to an interesting dialogue on sustainability, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Kiitos, even if it is Finnish, not Swedish. But anyway, thank you very much for this first round introduction of your organization, your vision, your visions on this sustainability in the industry. So as I share with all the panelists, we still have another important section that from the government sectors that play very important roles in this sustainability. It's not only the industry, not only the research center or the research institutions. So may I invite Dr. Kittipan to introduce a bit of that, how the governmental play the role in this sustainability, in particular to the industry. So please, Dr. Kittipan.
Thank you. I work for the Department of Industrial Works for over 20 years, and today I will present the information about industrial sector or for overall government related section that we have to deal with their service. We know that Thailand have many problems. Like please share slide number 9, please. This like my timeline in my working area. In so far 20 years, I prepare many information for our discussion or your question later at the end of the discussion presentation. Anyway, I will talk focus on circular economy and BCT policy of the government. As we have many problems in our economy, both middle income trap, inequality trap, and the imbalance trap. We need some tools to manage our country by innovation and distributive economy and circular economy to make our Thailand 4.0 prosper and secure and sustain. Next slide, please. Next slide. And our country, we have the national strategy 20 years to leave from middle income trap. And we plan the first tier is the level 1 plan, we call that. And the second layer we call National Reform Plan and Master Plan for Sustainability, and 5-year plan and 20-year plan. And the third layer of the plan, we need some industrial development plan for 20 years, environmental development strategy and pollution management plan, prevention of the toxic and hazardous waste plan, national waste management and plastic waste roadmap, and industrial waste management. So this kind of plan and policy is very tough for our country, especially for the government to manage, to make it meet the target and the timeline to solve many problems. And next slide, please. Number 23. 23, please. 23. 23. Our industry in Thailand, we have can divide as four era or 4 period. At last over 20 years, we call end of pipe era. Many factories just make pollution not called freely, but the standard is quite weak because of our resource to inspect or promote the management of the factory or industry. Anyway, next period we call the time of the prevention pollution. We use many kind of technology like clean technology, ISO 14000 or the environmental management system, and also we have the idea that human resource is the most important resource to solve every problem. So we make the environmental personnel scheme to assist our government officer to handle about the technical issue in the factory operation. So we need that legislation of that kind of human resource. And also the major source of pollution, we need online monitoring, and also some kind of factory operation, we need submit report every quarter. And next period, we have more development scheme to implement in the industry sector. We use corporate social responsibility concept and green industry concept, and also eco-industrial town concept. This kind of concept we have plan and target to implement for year by years. And currently, this current era, we try to make it more autonomous and more convenient for the operator or entrepreneur to have the self-declaration system of their operation. Also, we will use the third party to make the auditing of the factory. And also, we try to implement the PRTR concept, pollution release and transfer register, and also circular economy. Then 29, please. You will see that graph. If we make more advanced management scheme, implement faster, it can use like produce the higher pollute or higher technology product, like Finland. The graph, yellow color and the blue color. The blue color is Finland. The yellow is average European country, but Thailand is just average Asia country. The green line. It like just we still need more advanced technology for high technology products. Next, please, 29. So I have a chance to work as a working group in the Committee of Commerce and Industry for the Senate in the Parliament. We make a study on the circular economy recommendation report, and we have like a solution of the 6 recommendations. Make the strategy more to be a grand strategy as a national frameworks, and transform the enterprise toward the circular economy. Then we make a circular economy market development and need the technology and innovation promotion. Then building the public awareness for circular economy and recycling the waste management system. This is our recommendation, and you can download this report later. I will give all the presentation to the organizer later, don't worry. And this is the concept of circular economy in government level, and also the study of some report. Actually, we have many reports so far in our ministry also. We have report for the circular economy standard by the Thailand Industrial Standard Institute, and also Department of Primary and mine and industry. Also, we have a report, not report, the guideline for the company to make the circular economy implementation in the enterprise step by step. And for the next issue that many people ask about the support or assistance from the government, actually we have many schemes by many organizations in the government sector that, especially the funding, you can see the slide number 32 and 33. 32, please. As you see that we need assistance for our SME that now is nearly half of the national GDP. It comes from SME enterprise, and we have the organization called Office of SME Promotion, and we have the plan and they make the precision focus for each sector of the SME, since from startup and regular enterprise and also strong enterprise, or even the turnaround group. And next slide, please. This part shows many ministries that have participation in the assistance, not only actually the money but also the guidance or consultation. Our ministry ourselves, we have like a loan for the SME for each target group, as mentioned earlier. Also, Ministry of Environment also have environmental fund for some pollution project. And Ministry of Energy, we have like environmental conservation fund for like general people, either organization or individual household, like for solar rooftop or even waste treatment to make higher efficiency, something like that. Okay. And for Ministry of Science, now we call higher education, science, research and innovation. So we have innovation technology assistance program that lab have like share investment and consultation with the applicant for the proposal. Okay. Also, the Ministry of Finance, we have SME bank to make for the loan. Okay. Next page for 34. So to become our development country to be 4.0, we need like a more value-based economy and restructuring economy from manufacturing to the value-added with advanced manufacturing. So we have the plan like to shift from S-curve to be new S-curve. So we have like a sector for 10 or 12 sector to focus for the assistance or support. Okay. And for another organization we call Board of Investment, also have like investment policy for corporate income tax for like 50% or 100% for each period of year. In the past, we give the promotion by the concept of the zone-based or to be the industrial technology of overseas-based. But now we use the merit-based or area-based or the agenda-based. So if the applicant need the target of our research and development focus or the HR, human resource development or intellectual property license or the training or design, there we have the higher level of the investment promotion. Okay. Or in the EEC or the SEC, Special Economic Zone, also we try to have the promotion better than the normal applicant. And even the agenda based for the SME or for the farmer or company enter to the stock market. Then the slide number 36 is actually government try to promote another policy called BCG. Can you back one slide, 35? 35, please. The statement of cabinet policy have mentioned in the area 5 that the term of economic development and competitiveness of Thailand in the area of industrial development of the concept of bio-economy, circular economy, and green economy. So it written in the announcement of the state cabinet policy. So our government office have to push or make forward the policy as mentioned.
Okay.
Then many government agency or ministry have their own program and plan to make the movement of the scheme. Okay. For example, next slide is the concept of the Ministry of Industry.
Okay. Dr. Kittipan, with respect to the time, so perhaps can you stop right now? Okay. Then when we discuss further, you can show that which slide that you would like to respond to that. So I think that would be more interesting that we can hear from others as well. So we know very well that Ministry of Industry and Thai governments have been investing on this BCG circular economy for many areas, not only in the industry, in other ministry as well. So I think that would be the things that we can learn later, that how the Finnish industry, how the Finnish research centers contribute to this as well, and then we can make that a kind of a lesson learned to our country that would be benefit to our country, I think, at least. So with that, I like to start some questions to the panelists that we have heard from the VTT and Neste that you also having lots of that achievement in the past that bring the country like Finland, that the population is much smaller than Thailand and many other Asian countries. So with that kind of achievement, I would like to ask to you, both of you, that what are the key factors and challenges in achieving this sustainability in your organization or in your country? So can you briefly explain that? What are the key factors and key challenges as well? So please, maybe Dr. Mona first.
Okay, thank you. On the behalf of my organization, we work with our customers, and we provide, or we develop together solutions and innovations. So what we aim for, that our customers are, with our solutions, our customers become more sustainable and leave a handprint instead of a footprint when applying the innovations that we are together working for. Our strategy is to be working in a challenge-driven way. That means that our research is always guided by the global challenges. And for instance, every project we look at how they fit into the United Nations SDGs. So that is, we also have the target to become carbon neutral by 2030. As we see here, my peers here in the same panel was mentioning the same target. As for Finland, I see that we are, as you mentioned, we are quite a small country. We have a quite low population density, 5.5 million people. And that means that we could say that from the international perspective, we can work as a pilot case in becoming sustainable. And when we have also a small population, we have to really consider the economy of scale and logistics. And that is actually a core theme in circular economy, not only how you technically process a waste stream into a product, of course, that is the core, but we have to, in order to actually be circular economy, every factor in a businesses need to match. So we have a functioning value chain, and there we want to support the companies as well. Thanks.
Okay, Kietos, thank you very much. So, Stephen, do you have any compliment to that?
Yeah, I guess I would just probably say, and I go back to what I said about our purpose, and I think that a key factor to our success around sustainability has been our purpose and being driven by this purpose to drive and lead change. And this purpose of creating a healthier planet for our children obliges Neste to stretch our vision for fighting the climate crisis and also widening our views on the role that we can play to tackle nature loss and inequality. And all of these things are interlinked. And again, it's this overarching purpose that drives us to innovate and reduce our carbon footprint and provide circular solutions that also help our customers reduce their carbon handprint. And we are continuing to move forward. So Neste has made commitments towards carbon neutral value chain by 2040. We have two very ambitious climate commitments. Firstly, to reach carbon neutral production, so that's scope 1 and 2 by 2035. And second, to help our customers reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 20 million tons by 2030. And we are well on our way here, where we, in 2021, so last year, this figure was 10.9 million tons. So we helped our customers reduce their carbon emissions by 10.9 million tons. And we have now committed to also set a concrete target for scope 3 emissions. So to reduce use phase emission intensity of sold products by 50% by 2040 compared to 2020 levels. And how will we do this? Well, this target will be achieved through our transformation towards increasing the share of renewable and circular solutions, as well as working with suppliers and partners to reduce emissions across the entire value chain. So as the world's leading producer of sustainable aviation fuel, renewable diesel, and also renewable feedstock solutions for various polymers and chemicals industry users, our business is built on sustainability. We refine our renewable products from waste, residues, and sustainably produced vegetable oils. So renewable and circular solutions are our contribution to keeping societies running sustainably. Sustainability, therefore, is actually integrated in everything that we do.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephen. So can I move to our green industry in Thailand, Bangchak? So at least Kun Kroita also very green here, at least. So that what is the key factors and challenges in your own organization, please?
Okay, thank you very much. Myself, I've joined the Bangchak group for about 5 years, but growing up, again, I think Bangchak had been recognized at the forefront of the leading environmental responsible group of companies in Thailand, and there's so many stories, you know, about Bangchak's commitment to environment and society, and even the logo, the leaf, the green leaf, you know, it has its meaning. But what I'm trying to say is that the fact that this has been embedded in Bangchak's principle or in strategy within from day one. So I think the key success factors, if I were to group them into three partners, three pairs, is the first one being commitment and action. We had commitment from the top, and they walk the talk, and they take the action, and it goes down to the organization, not just the top, and they also empower everyone to follow this principle. The second being awareness and engagement. This is very important. Last year when we started to make our commitment to be carbon neutral and to reach net zero greenhouse gas emission, what we were told was that, you know, you cannot just go out and tell the world. You need to make sure that our employees are aware. So what we did was we launched an internal, which is now going to be external also, an internal educational campaign, Bangchak 100X, which is also something that say that, you know, we are going to be a sustainable company, be more than 100 years old company. So the campaign is called Bangchak 100X Climate Action. So everyone needs to take part in that. And we have enrolled it, and now our employees are on board, and we are now spreading out to our suppliers, to communities, to as many stakeholders as we can. And the last one being partnership and collaboration. You know, now today we cannot do anything alone. We cannot be just a leader by ourselves. If we were to lead, we have to lead inclusively. So we have to make sure that everyone is included, no one's left behind, and more importantly, everyone has their own expertise. So if every single one brings their own expertise and work together, that's for the better of the world. And so for us, these are our success factors, but also they can be our challenges as well.
Yep.
I mean, if you fail in one of those aspects, that would have a detrimental result to the sustainability journey that you're making.
That's right. Okay, thank you very much. I think that's very important. I have heard about that, the partnerships, and also that the economy of scale, and somehow that we have to work together, and otherwise it will not be possible to lead to that the sustainability. So with that, I would like to address another question related to that, the ecosystems. How should we develop the industrial ecosystem that enable the sustainabilities in the industry, that instead of just doing alone by Bangjak or by SCG, by the VTT or GC, whatsoever, the large company, but we have so many other industry in Thailand, in the country as well, that they may not know very well, and they may not capable to do this together with the Bangjak or together with Neste or Walmart. So Frederick, what is your idea that how can we develop this ecosystem?
Yes, thank you. Interesting topic, and I think it was discussed already a little bit in the previous panel discussion as well. And one way is, of course, to have an external push of any kind. I think change in consumer behaviors is one thing that could drive this type of development. Other things could be changes in legislations, regulations, kind of subsidies or initiatives from the government, policy changes. Those type of things are the kind of the fast way to create changes, in my opinion. In addition to that, what was also discussed in the other panel discussion, I think that there is a lot of benefits in different type of sustainability investments. It could lead to reduced operating cost. It could lead to new revenue streams, basically resulting in an overall higher revenue for the companies. I think that what is required to build that type of an ecosystem is probably an open communication and a dialogue. I think that a seminar or a symposium like this one is a very good initiative to kind of spread and share the knowledge and the experiences.
Okay, thank you. I think that's very important, that the communication is one of the tools that we can set the enable ecosystem that help the people, help the industry, help the government sectors in setting this kind of ecosystem. So what is your idea, Dr. Kittipan, about this ecosystem, whether our Thailand 4.0 and BCG models can set this kind of enabling ecosystem or not, please?
Sure. Actually, the requirement of the enable system, because it due to our nature of the country, that we are agricultural based nation, and our technology is not have much R&D by ourselves. Then we need some scheme to push, as I mentioned, to be Thailand 4.0, and I checked the figure at first before coming. We have like 12 times of number of population of Finland, but we just have double of GDP. So I think it have some requirement to push our country better economics by some management. So the last 5 or 10 years, we try to make like concept of 4.0, but actually we need more sustained or more broader version we call BCG. But actually BCG is similar to the circular economy concept, because the right hand side circle is just like bio, and it means the organic thing, and the right hand circle is the circular economy is like finite element or the mineral or material that we have limited resource in our world. And both are encircled by the green economy, that we try to minimize our national resource consumption and make minimal environmental impacts. So this is just the simple explanation of our BCT concept. And I think the most important factor is the human resource. As I mentioned, we need to make the awareness to our people and our business to let them think about the higher technology implementation and capacity building of the capacity or capability, because of the industry now they need like a disruption of the business management, because to make the better sustainable development to meet the SDG target of the United Nations for the uncertainty situation, like we have like pandemic, or we have a national international conflict, like many trade barrier or something. So the point is now that we have many like we call CISC, critical industrial supply chain. That means the supply chain of the product or the process that needs some raw material. It have easily shortage problem, need some higher price to buy the raw material, something like that. So we need to focus our food security and energy security.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's very nice. So I think you have heard that they answer very properly, because I shared the question in early before coming to the session. So with that, I think I would like to invite the question from the floor, from the audience in the room or in the online, that if you may have any other questions that would like to address to the panelists here, it would be very welcome, please. Any? Yes, please. Can you get the mic, please? So he's another colleague from Vamet, and luckily he was a AIT alumni as well.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yeah, since we're talking a lot about BCG, biocircular green here, just wanted to get an understanding that what technology can like VTT or Valmet bring to Thailand in order to promote more here in this area?
Okay, please, Dr. Kittipant, what should be the technologies that respond to BCG model? Yeah.
So we may have two parts: the part of the renewable and the part of the non-renewable. Renewable, that we try to make it shorten the loop of the renew of the circle. For example, we try to use bio products. That is for bioeconomies. So our ministry, we have like announced the standard of the bioplastic. And last few years we have like a regulatory sandbox for the promote the exemption of the corporate tax for the purchasing or procurement of the renewable plastic, not single use, and also this is like something that scheme of our government for the bioeconomy. For the circular economy, we also have many management, like our Department of primarily industry and mining. We have lab or our training school or workshop to make the recycling of mineral for like over 30 products or process, like precious metal or heavy metal from electronic waste. This kind we call circular economy research and development. So many SMEs come to have training with them, like every weekend or every few months for their training course.
Okay.
And for this is the support of our ministry.
Okay. Thank you very much. What about Bangchak? What would you like to get more advancement or innovative
I think
technologies?
coming from the energy-based industry, what we are looking, if we were to meet our goal, is first how we could, of course, capturing and use the carbon dioxide emission. So the carbon capture and utilization technology would be very crucial. And also, when we look into the likes of sustainable aviation fuel, something that I believe Neste is an expert on this. Again, only within the next few years, every commercial jets that fly to Europe will need to have this sustainable aviation fuel, at least I think 5%. So as a producer or manufacturer of jet fuel, that is also something that would be beneficial. And something like green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, of course, going towards net zero is very important. So for Bangchak, it's rather a large scale, but that of course would need to have some kind of incentive from either the BOI or the Ministry of Industry. A refinery is quite unique in the sense that we are under the supervision of the Ministry of Industry. So if we were to have like technology like CCUS or hydrogen or something that needs exemption, it's not from the BOI, but it's from the Ministry of Industry. So now that I have your ears, please, if in the future this is something that we would like you to consider for refineries, because this is a very unique case.
Okay. Good, thank you. I think the other things that you may have questions, please address.
I'm Douglas Webster from School of Sustainability at Arizona State. I also have an AIT connection. I was professor there for 4 years.
Yes.
My question is, I heard the theme I seem to hear from the panelists is that the customer or the user is so important, be it aviation fuel, diesel fuel for trucks and so on and so forth, even though obviously the potential benefit is built into your product. But I didn't hear much about how you follow up with customers. How do you interact with them? What do you try to do to change their behavior or to squeeze more benefit out of your products? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like Stephen to address these questions. Please, Stephen. Did you hear the questions?
Yeah, I did hear the question. I'm not particularly sure exactly how to address it, but let me give it a shot. I think that if you look at the business that we are in, which is around renewable fuels, and you take renewable diesel or sustainable aviation fuel, part of it is actually driven by policies and regulations. So if you take the European Union, we have mandates that are in place in the Nordic countries and several countries in the EU that require fuel suppliers. The fuel suppliers are mandated to use either renewable diesel or going forward, as my counterpart from Bangchak Petroleum mentioned, from 2025 onwards with the EU Refuel Initiative, flights originating from the EU, whether they are domestic flights, and when I mean domestic is EU flights out of Europe, or international flights, will very likely be taking in a blend of 2% sustainable aviation fuel, because that is mandated. And then, of course, on the west coast of the United States, you have the low carbon fuel system. So in places like California, where there are incentives provided to fuel suppliers when they blend in biofuels. So I think one of the factors that really drives certainly the biofuels market is having these mandates or incentives in place. The second aspect, of course, is the customer. And from our perspective, what we see is more customers, and perhaps driven by these mandates. So if you take the aviation sector, one of the things that's really driving demand around sustainable aviation fuel is the fact that airlines can see the future policies and developments that are taking place, and they know that they need to adapt, and they need to adapt fast. The same is on the road fuel side. So, for example, here in Asia Pacific, where we still don't have mandates, New Zealand has announced a biofuels mandate for road transport. And what this means is that fuel suppliers will be obligated to blend in biofuels, and there's also penalties for non-compliance. So it's a little bit of a carrot and stick approach. But you also have very forward-looking companies, and you have forward-looking airlines. I mean, recently, or just yesterday, we signed an agreement with United Airlines in the United States, who wants to transform their business and blend in sustainable aviation fuel. So there are always forerunners in this space, but there is also a need to have the right policies to get things moving.
Okay, thank you. So Kai, you have questions or answer to this?
Yes, I have one question here from the chat. I just read directly how it's written here. The Pollution Control Department is licensing national network of some 45 waste-to-energy power plants, universally distrusted by local residents, wherever they are being built. With the circular economy in mind, is burning waste the optimum solution? What can Finland share with us on this burning issue? And I think it's a VTT and Valmet who can comment on this.
Okay, please, Dr. Mona first, please. Lady first. You hear the questions?
Yeah. Okay. Could you please repeat the question? So I get it right.
Maybe start with the
Valmet. Maybe Frederick.
Yeah, maybe I start with it. And I think it was also well discussed in the other panel discussion. I think that waste to energy is one solution, and typically the waste to energy should be combined with waste sorting and recycling of valuable waste that then can be recycled. It can also be combined with anaerobic digestion to produce biogas of the organic waste. And then I would say that today there is not any better alternative than burning the remaining waste that cannot be recycled or producing any biogas, and creating green electricity from that in a controlled way with good air emission control. So that would be my answer today on that topic.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Mona, do you have any additions? Yeah, please.
Yes, I think that the sorting of waste that we have, so there will always be rejects, even though how far you even go with sorting waste, so you can get the material recycling is also always coming first in the waste hierarchy. And if you look at if there are different solutions for that, either you can sort it by consumers, or you can sort it with the technical solutions from the mixed waste. But there will always be some fractions that doesn't make any sense from economic or environmental perspective to recycle, and obviously then there will not be a market for these. So we're going to see less and less fractions going to incineration, but we will still see it will always be some fractions going there, so it will just be diminishing, but still have its place in the waste hierarchy.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
But there is a lot of low-hanging fruits still that haven't been picked in this area.
Okay, and I have a quick question of myself for the companies and VTT. You are in the middle of processing these new innovations for circular economy. I would just like to hear from Valmet and Neste that how much you have foreign partners. Are you doing it in-house in Finland with universities or alone, or how much you have in partners in Asia or somewhere else, and maybe give a short example. And also from Bangchak, that how much you have overseas partners in this kind of innovation process. VTT is doing it all the time around the world, I know.
But keep it short because we have limited of time remaining, so please.
Okay, thank you. Good question. Actually, it relates also to a previous question about taking in the requests or the demands from the customer as well. So being a global company, I think that we are cooperating both with the universities in the Nordics, Finland and Sweden, but we also have innovations and cooperations with the universities in, for instance, India. So I would say that we have taken in a global approach when it comes to innovation, and we are also listening to the demands and the requests from the customer, as well as looking at mega trends, policy changes, etc. So our development is driven by our customer demands our general mega trends in the society, and also cooperations with different universities and organizations.
I think it's a similar approach, and we work with a lot of universities, also AIT, and we are now doing a commercial test of the first sustainable aviation fuel, which was a lab test from one of the university in Thailand. So we always look for opportunity to scale up whatever that was a lab test in university, and try to support their work as much as possible. We also invest in a startup all over the world. Like the latest was in a startup company in the UK in green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, and green hydrogen. So that's how we operate. I think is the same.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, I think very, very quickly, partnerships are critical, I think, in this sort of business. Obviously, as Neste continues to expand in the Asia-Pacific region, we continue to build these partnerships. We are partnering with a number of sort of universities and think tanks here already, and we continue to look at building future partnerships as well.
Okay, thank you. Any burning questions? Otherwise, I have another burning questions. Well, just reading to the comments in the Facebook Live, my uncle, my professor, Dr. Supon, also addressing one of the important issues on that. I think he would like to address about the logistics, that either the blue or green, the hydrogens or waste energies. And also Dr. Richard also mentioning this the earlier session, that it is very important that if we do not have the better logistics starting from the collection, segregation, and properly treat the waste in advance from the community or from the other industry to your biorefinery or from some others waste to energy program or projects or treatment plant whatsoever. How should we do that? What would be the lesson learned from Finland, that how you can manage this kind of logistics starting from the household or even the small scale industry, that they properly segregate the waste and then having the economics of the scale that they can send the waste to you. Thank you. Please, maybe from the Mona first.
Okay, thank you. You really put up, you really was raising a question that we have been discussing here a lot in Finland. It's crucial how you do the logistics when you have small flows and large distance. It's who has the crystal ball? It depends on the fraction, and I see it as a combination of decentralized processing units who are pre-treating certain fractions and then in that way compacting it and bringing it forward. And also I foresee that in the future there are going to be some post-fractionation, post-separations, when you bring the bulk in to a center and then you fractionate their larger volumes into specific waste fractions. Because I mean, you need to have a kind of a homogeneous waste which is more or less clean, that can be washed afterwards, in order to have a decent recyclate, a decent product coming out of the whole process. But I see that's a combination of different solutions, different logistics that we are playing. It's so kind of a depending on the fraction and depending on the distance and so. But there are I see decentralization and pre-processing at the spot, and then bringing it to centralized processing. That's how I see good work for many of the fractions, and for instance metals and plastics.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Dr. Kitipan, do you agree with that? Should we have the decentralized BCG model for each individual district in Thailand, so that we can manage the waste to energy better, for example, please?
Yeah, actually, the waste collection is like limitation of the feasible kind of project. Means like the longer distance is more likely that not feasible to offset with the transportation fee. So the distribution transfer station, we call it, is a good solution for that.
Okay, good. I think with that, I'm sure that we cannot get many conclusions from this session yet. We still need many more discussion, interaction between each other from the government sectors, from the industry, from the economic sector, from the research sector as well. So that circular economy, I would see that we can pave the way to the sustainable industry for sure, as S curve or other S whatsoever S in the futures. But we need more collaboration, we need more collaborative actions, that not just only the industry, not just only the government sectors can do the job alone. We need many others to join hands, starting from that the household. If you cannot segregate the waste, how can we send the waste properly in the cheap cost to the industry to produce the hydrogen, green hydrogen, for example. So I think that would be many other things that we can talk more. I'm sure that the Finnish embassy will not just finish the symposium and ending with that very nice champagnes, but without any further collaboration. I'm sure that at least on behalf of AIT, we are looking forward to collaborate to all the sectors, the government sectors, the industry from Thailand or from Finland or the other countries, that we can work together, as we can bring more innovations, we can develop more technologies that sustainable to our country. Thank you very much for your kind listening. Thank you. Thank you very much for your panelists as well. Thank you. Kiitos.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all the panelists and listeners. And we have some glasses of sparkling wine. Please have it first before you go. We are looking for partnerships to do, and as AIT President and Dr. Thammarat said, we will be continuing these sessions and hot topics of circular economy in the future as well. Thank you so much for all. The recording will be in the Foreign Correspondents Club of Thailand Facebook page for anyone to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much.